so many rules in 40k, hundreds of events, and constant updates. Skip the learning curve of Warhammer and join the pros. Art of War is led by multiple world champions with decades of success. We teach clinics, stream games, and inspire you to succeed at your favorite hobby. Join our global community of gamers just like you.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Art of War Tier List Tuesday.
Woo! Time for a tier list. Everyone loves a tier list. This one's bigger than most.
Absolutely. This is the Hammer of the Emperor right here.
That's right. Well, hopefully they no longer have that role. We'll see.
Oh God.
But yes, this is the new
I would say
Imperial
improved.
Guard. New, definitely improved Imperial Guard.
I think so. I
Yes.
think a little bit.
So as our dear listeners know, our dear viewers, readers, watchers, they know, when a new book comes out, we do a tier list.
Yeah.
Because we're tier list fiends over here. We're here
have
to inject those tier lists straight into our veins.
We have a problem with tier lists, and you, our dear viewers, are the enablers. Which
That's
means
right.
we're not going to stop.
That's right. We won't stop. We can't stop. Well, we can stop anytime we want. We just don't want.
That's true. We just don't want to stop ranking all of the units in the Imperial Guard Codex. So, I'm sure everyone has noticed that the new Guard book has come out.
Adam Lane, Tears for Tears.
Tears for Tears. That's true, Adam. I'm sure everyone's noticed, new Guard book. It's been making waves. I think the new Codex just brought home its first event win 2 days ago. And we're starting to see it pop out in the wild. And a lot of conversation about it.
It's a pretty good book.
But then a lot of people don't think that. I had the, okay, John, I hear you think that Guard is actually okay conversation like 4 times this weekend. And I'm like, I assure you, you're going to be fine, Guard player who misses Steel Legion. Like, you're gonna find a way.
Is that a case of that there's just like less flavor in the book? Because that's true.
Yeah.
Or is it a case that they think it's less powerful?
I think longtime Guard players have been playing with the same book for 61 months. And,
so they know no other way.
They know no other way.
Oh, it's a classic case of when the new Custodes book came out and it was broken. And I literally saw memes about Games Workshop murdering the book.
Yes, I think it's like that.
Yeah. It's because it's a psychological thing in human beings where we notice the differences. We notice what they take away, but we don't notice as much what they give.
Luckily, we didn't really play Guard that much. So we're noticing.
We're noticing the book's pretty good. Yeah, Adam Link, Guard will dominate on UKTC terrain. What UKTC terrain? Hey! All right, so we got a long list. They have a lot of units in this here book.
Yeah, we need to dive into this if we're going to finish by our 1 p.m. stream.
Yeah, like real talk. All right, so that we can use our time effectively talking about the units rather than talking nonsense ahead of time, shall we get right into it?
Yeah, let's discuss kind of how we rank the units real quick. We've laid out 5 categories here, which might mirror the normal S tier and down. But first up is tournament staples. Tournament staples are units that we think are going to be in almost every serious tournament list. Like if you're writing a list with the stated intention of, I'm trying to compete to podium at this event, these are units that you're going to include almost every time.
Yeah, so we're trying not to have this be like a tier list of like how often you'll see them, but tournament staples you will see quite often. Yep. This is because oftentimes, especially with the way they've designed newer 40k, a lot of units have some kind of role. It was actually kind of hard to find the bottom 10 units, whereas if I did that 4 years ago, I would have had 50 units in every book that did literally nothing. But units now generally kind of do a thing, and sometimes that's a thing you want, sometimes it's a thing you can probably do without. Maybe they're a little overcosted, and they would fall into flawed choice. We still did save maybe an F tier, kind of a crap tier, if you will, cannon fodder.
Yes, I someone's gonna fall into cannon fodder.
That's right.
I don't know who, but I've got ideas.
Yes. Ren 40K, are we doing this without the data slate?
Yeah, I think we're gonna just assume that you're using the rules in the book, and assume that nothing from the balance patch is going to be affecting the codex.
Yes.
That seems to be the implication made by GW in their Meta Watch videos, but they haven't exactly stated it outright, which would be way too convenient.
Yeah, that would be too convenient. Yeah. GW doesn't usually do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're assuming you don't get the data slate.
Yep.
We're assuming that. If you do, vehicles get better, indirect becomes insane. Like,
yeah, just bump every vehicle and indirect piece that is not in tournament staples up one level and call it a day.
Yeah, I think every indirect piece goes up like legitimately 2 levels at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, sure.
Whatever at that point. But we're assuming you don't get it. That seems to be what they're going for. But, we'll find out when we find out.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think that event that was taking down my guard, they were using the data slate?
They were using the Armor of Contempt part of it.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's very clear Hammer of the Emperor is just not going to be a thing.
Yeah, that does seem quite obvious. But they left Armor of Contempt in on all the guard vehicles, which I have strong, passionate feelings about.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's get right into it. I have organized this by slot, so it's HQs first.
Excellent.
Then troops, or then regimental attaches, then troops, then elites, fast attack, heavy, transport, super heavy, and finally the one lone fortification.
And a flyer slot.
And sure, I guess that too.
Yeah.
Why not?
Actually, I didn't even know if the Valkyrie's a flyer transport. Doesn't really matter.
It's a flyer.
Oh, okay. Changed it.
Yeah. So, also, we're not doing any Forge World on this.
Yeah, that's just too much.
No way. No way that's happening right now. Maybe if people really want it and you leave comments in the comment section down below about just how much you want a separate tier list about all of the Forge World options, we can do that. But if we were to add the Forge World options to this would legitimately take 6 hours.
Yeah, I mean, if people showed their support, maybe with those bright, colorful super chats that we love so much, I'm sure we could rank, if someone were to super chat and say, hey, John, what do you think about this one Forge World unit? I could probably be coerced to give a thought.
Go get the Forge World book.
I've got it on my phone. I'm ready.
Cool.
It's already on the guard section.
Cool.
All right.
Forge World's not updated. Yeah, Forge World's not updated.
Forge World's not updated, and therefore we don't know how any of it actually works.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll update it just any second now.
Yeah, probably tomorrow, actually. You know what? There's a 50-50 chance it's updated during this video. Either it will or it won't. 50-50.
Yeah. Oh, okay, Nick. Yeah. Yeah, basically my Jokerification moment was when Chaos Knights, they just didn't update for the length of 9th edition until they got a new book.
Yeah.
That was my Jokerification.
We'll give the quick TLDR. Are there any Forge World units in the conversation? Nope.
No, not really.
Nope, there are not.
Not particularly.
Not even one.
Nope. All right, let's get into it.
Roll into it.
We've got the Cadian Command Squad.
All right. So this is your generic lieutenant era, but it's also for some reason comes with 4 guys, so it's a giant character unit that can string out.
Yep.
But it only gives up 1 for assassinate, all the normal stuff. I think this is pretty good. The Cadian Command Squad and the Command Squad, which we're going to be ranking, are the same points cost. This comes with no heavy weapon option, but the Cadian keyword, which means that it has some good strat access, but at the cost of not taking a heavy weapon ever. And I think I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah, when people do attack your Command Squad, I would much rather have it be, hard to kill. Yeah, I would much rather be able to access all of the defensive abilities I'm looking for rather than having one las cannon that kind of shoots, or a mortar. The mortar is nice. Legitimately, the mortar
is not bad. But now that they've actually made all of the different options quite takeable, before it was just a Command Squad, maybe I'll give it 4 plasma guns because nothing else matters. Now it's you actually want a regimental standard because they're a great relic carrier.
They are.
You actually want a Vox caster.
The finial of the Nemrodesh first is a little ludicrous. And so you're going to take a Command Squad.
Yeah, you're going to take a Command Squad, I think. I'm inclined that one of these 2 Command Squads, because we can kind of side by side them.
Yeah.
They are the same data sheet with very small differences.
The Catachan one here is the platoon, and the Cadian one is the
Cadian one. I would say the Cadian one goes tournament staple. I think...
Yeah, Finial, it's a Finial carrier.
As a Finial carrier, it's really strong. I think you can build lists that just don't... The only time you don't see a Command Squad is if you don't take any infantry that deal damage. And while that is a choice that you can make, I don't think it's the right one. But we have seen lists that are going X and 1 already with new Guard Codex that are not taking the finial because they're not taking any core infantry that matter.
Yeah, I don't love that because even if you take a little bit of core infantry, then it's worth it.
Well,
So, I mean, if you take the finial, you're operating a little closer to the front lines than perhaps a different command squad would be. So it's better to be more durable, especially since people will probably go out of their way to try to kill the finial.
if I had the opportunity to get a character to charge the finial unit, I would take it 100% of the time.
So having access to transhuman, all that sort of thing, it's just better. And you still get special weapons and
Yeah, if you want special weapons, you get everything but access to a las cannon / mortar, whichever heavy weapon you wanted.
yeah, and that's the only difference.
Yeah.
I think this goes in strong choice.
Yeah, like I think it's objectively worse than the Cadian squad, but like it's still really good. And maybe you personally don't like Cadians, and you know what? Fair enough. Not everyone loves them. So yeah, I'm totally okay with it. And if someone was like, yeah, I just wanted my finial to have a random las cannon because it's sitting in the back of my mortars, sure, get an extra mortar in there.
But I do think what that is that the finial is a tournament staple, and so the finial caddy is.
Yeah,
do you want a
100%.
finial caddy with a mortar, or do you want a finial caddy that can access transhuman? And the answer
and
is
Vengeance for Cadia.
and Vengeance for Cadia. And I don't think that matters very much
Vengeance for Cadia?
on a command squad.
No, because if it's a unit within 6 inches of a Cadian officer.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
that's do you want access to those, or do you want access to a mortar? And the answer is I think I want access to those.
Yeah. I like the access.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about
The Cadian Castellan.
yes,
Another
the new
Cadian officer
character.
that can be used to give out
Vengeance for
Vengeance
Cadia.
for Cadia.
He tells them, like, listen, this Cadia place, it was great, and they messed it up. Go get them, Chief.
you have to let Bellicor know that -1 to wound isn't as good as +2 to wound. I got a grudge against him too. Come on.
Oh,
Oh
bro.
yeah. You ever wound Bellicor on a 4+ with the las gun?
Disgusting. Gross.
All right, so let's talk about the Cadian Castellan.
So how many points is this boy?
50. He's
not that expensive.
No, he is a very like for a random captain equivalent who also gives a good command phase buff. He is a quite appropriately costed little guy.
And he issues 2 orders.
Yeah,
which is pretty dope.
I think he's 50, right?
I'm checking.
He might be 60, but I'm pretty sure he's 50.
He is 50.
50. Love that.
If you want to give him a plasma pistol or power fist, which you straight up will not do,
Yep.
you will probably give him a power sword and a bolt
bolt
pistol,
pistol,
and that's it. And like, cool.
Yep, sounds great. Cadian sounds great. I mean, he's a captain aura for core, which is just useful again if you're going infantry heavy. I think it's nice. He's very cheap. He's a good relic caddy. He's a good warlord trait caddy. He's a character.
Yeah.
He gives 2 regimental orders a turn, where a command squad at 75 points gives 1. A Castellan at 50 points gives 2, but he doesn't come with all of the little friends.
And he does not hold the finial. If he held the finial, we would have some different discussions.
Yeah. Basically, it's do you want to reroll 1s to hit aura on a relic caddy? And also, do you want more regimental orders?
Yeah, I think the
seems-
Castellan is pretty good. It's just it's that he's shown up by the special characters.
Yeah. No, the Castellan's great. I have no objections to him. I think he's a strong choice. Like he is an above average HQ choice.
Yeah,
orders are
very
strong.
good.
He gives 2. He gets all access to all the custom things you could want.
It's also really annoying to kill with access to transhuman and a 5-up invuln and 5 wounds. Like,
Yeah.
for a 50-point character, he doesn't. I'm used to 50-point characters having 4 wounds and like a 4-up save and no invuln.
Yeah.
And he has a 5-up invuln, 5 wounds, and has access to transhuman.
No, he's just really like I'm gonna make this sad Genestical comparison where I look at what a Primus costs and then I look at what a Castellan costs. I'm like, okay,
Sure, bud. All right. Now we've got the world's coolest, best unit in the entire book, Gaunt's Ghosts. I've read the books.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm currently rereading Straight Silver.
I actually want to check something real quick, just because I had something pointed out to me a while ago and I didn't actually check to see if it was true.
What are you looking at?
So I'm looking up his warlord trait.
Oh, Gaunt's?
You got Gaunt's warlord trait.
Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt?
Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt. I think it's lead by example. I'm sorry. Let's talk about what they do. Yeah.
Oh, God. They do a lot. This is the important part.
It's 6 6 infantry models kind of stapled together into a big character unit, as always.
Yep, all of them are multi-wound. 3 of them are 2 wounds, 2 of them are 4 wounds, 1 of them's 3 wounds. They have a lot of attacks. They all get an extra attack off their knife.
Yep.
Gaunt's Chainsword, which unfortunately does not have the Power Sword of Hieronymo Sondar yet.
Sadly,
this
merely
is before,
a chainsword.
This is basically at the start of the series. So this is before Necropolis is the 3rd book out of like 50. And that's when he gets the Power Sword.
Well, notably though, this Gaunt issues 2 orders, and he knows both Regimental and Perfectus, which is kind of nice.
Perfectus is good. Perfectus is good. We have, while you're looking that up, we have a £5 super chat from Samuel Clark. How do you think Custodes Dread / Caladius list will perform in Degard now? Poorly. Yeah. Kasrkin, which we will go over in a second, but spoiler alert, they're good.
Yeah.
Kasrkin, the fun stat is when you stack all the buffs on them and use strats. 1 unit of Kasrkin will pick up 3 Custodes Dreadnoughts in 1 shooting activation on average, and that's bad. It's not good. It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
It's bad. You cannot run Custodes Dreads at this point, I think.
You can, just you're gonna have to accept that there is one bad matchup staring you down the barrel.
I don't even think it's a bad matchup. It's like a catastrophic matchup.
It sounds really rough.
Because they pick up 1 unit of Kasrkin kills 3, the rest of the army kills the other 3, and then you're like, all right, well that was fun. I just one-rounded your whole army.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing the problem here.
Yeah. There's an issue.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah. Custodes maybe should give the care of the Emperor over to the Imperial Guard. I think what you need to do is instead of taking dreadnoughts, you have to take more bikes and infantry. I think the dreadnoughts, the Caladius are still good. They're still real good. They're good in the guard. I think you probably want to take the Arachnus heavy blaze cannon instead. That's pretty good in the guard. And then if you take a bunch of bikes with salvo launchers and then some infantry to hold down objectives, I could see it. I could see that working. But the dreads
maybe the little skimmers too. Palace.
Yeah, the Palace I think are actually really good as well.
Yeah.
I have 3.
There we go. Well, let's
get back to the best.
Let's dive into the ghosts.
Let's dive into them.
So their royal trait is that they can order themselves, even though you can't normally do that.
It's that they can order officers, right?
Specifically themselves, not any officer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's lead by example. So Gaunt can give himself an order, and you can then order it off of himself. But the downside is that they're not regimental, which always makes me sad.
So can they?
So they don't get born soldiers. So you can order yourself still. Born soldiers gives you, or the trait that they have gives you the exception. But like, I don't know. He only has 2 orders. I don't know if I really want to be using one on.
It's a nice way to get Perfectus orders.
It is a nice way to get Perfectus orders, and Gaunt's Ghost is not expensive. It's 120.
Yeah, for a unit that's just 1,000,000 wounds.
Yeah, I mean, if you're somehow not using the finial, if you compare a Commissar and a command squad, that is 170, or that's 75 and 50, so that's 125. And if you were to just say like, what if you added a Commissar to a command squad, this would be a better version of that, but it doesn't get the finial.
Yeah, XV Broadside Bragg cannot do his weird infinite competitive edge grenade trick.
That is for the best.
Yes, it now says if he. Basically, no. He just can't.
Basically, so you can do it once. So if no hits were scored with your autocannon, you can then immediately shoot again with the autocannon.
Once.
So you could throw a frag grenade and say like, oh man, didn't hit with the autocannon, and then you could fire the autocannon once, but it stops there.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, you can't keep throwing the frag grenade. Yeah, if you want to get 1 frag grenade in addition to your 1 autocannon volley, sure. Like, okay, that's cute.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't like hit good.
Yeah.
His ballistic skill 5.
Yeah, no, it's really not. That one's not gonna break anything. I think we're safe on that. I don't know what to do with Gaunt's Ghost, because like the fact that they're
the only forward deploy in the army.
Well, there's Scout Sentinels too.
Well, those don't forward deploy, right? Those pre-game move.
No, they forward deploy.
They forward deploy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Gaunt's Ghost is pretty nice. I'm just like not like excited about them because it is just a Commissar and Command Squad combo, but then it's not like it's too bulky to like do cool transport tricks like commissars want to do, because you can't have another unit in the transport with them. They have some weird, like, better than normal damage, but not in a buffable way that's like actually real damage. It's just like, oh, this is better than the equivalent. But like, I don't need my command squad to like be better in combat.
They're pretty good at holding objectives in the open.
They are pretty good at that, but then
because
like,
you can't shoot at them if they're more than 18 inches away, period.
But then like, is guard bad at holding objectives in the open?
Maybe against other guard?
Maybe against other guard.
Like against other guard, I think legitimately you are. It also has a fight last. This just has like a lot of utility in ways that other parts don't. It is AP2, and it'll hit on 2s in combat because it's, you know, it can order itself to fix bayonets.
Absolutely. You can do some cute things there, but like it's still mostly strength 3, right?
It's 1,000,000 attacks.
But it's still mostly like strength 3 AP2 now, right?
AP2 damage 1. Gaunt's chainsword gives you D3 extra attacks. AP would be AP2 damage 2.
There you go. But still at strength 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what are we looking for here?
It's not bad. I'm not excited about Gaunt's Ghost. Real quick, we did have a super chat and some questions. I guess I'm just not as excited about Gaunt's Ghost because I haven't read the books. It's just probably part of it.
That's probably what.
But let's get to the super chat from Thomas. Thank you so much for your support. We really, really appreciate it. Will Guard get the same treatment as the Dwarves and increase their points by 25%? I hope not. I don't think Guard need that.
I don't think they need that either.
I think Guard have a rules problem, not a datasheet problem.
Yeah, and I think it's limited. Votan was just undercosted across the board.
Yeah, I think Guard have like 1 or 2 undercosted units that could go up a little bit in the next update, but don't have to go up right this second. And then Guard have a couple rules interactions that probably should be addressed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think you could get like a 2-paragraph FAQ and have Guard be fine until the next balance patch.
Okay, I think Gaunt's Ghost is good. I actually think it's fine. They don't do any one thing incredibly well.
Yeah,
like that's the thing. They don't do any one thing, but they are 2 orders that can be regimental or perfectus, which is not easy to get. Perfectus are kind of annoying to get.
They are annoying to get. That is a big upside.
They do make CP cheaper on themselves. They do ignore cover. They make people fight last. They deploy. They are hard to shoot.
I couldn't figure out a strat I was excited about using on them for free.
Yeah, when they're in cover, they have a 3-up armor save. Like they have a lot of wounds. They're hard to shoot to death. They're not that expensive. They have a 5-up invuln, all of them.
Yep.
Because Owen McColl is a badass. And they're also just super awesome.
Oh yeah, the models are lovely. And then like there's a lot of cool rules in here to the point where like I'm not putting this below perfectly average, I think, but I feel like Gaunt's Ghost is perfectly average. It's a nice alternative way to get your officers to do in the list and do something cool with it. But like I don't expect to see it taken too often, but if I ever see Gaunt's Ghost, I'm never going to be like, what is this unit even doing here? Like, what was the point? Like, there's a point.
I think they're fine. I think they're actually fine. They're not expensive. They're a bucket of wounds. They're a bucket of attacks. You can put any kind of strats on them like over and over and over again. Once a battle round, it makes it cheaper. So anything else, you just like.
I don't know what strat to make it cheaper.
Anything you want.
Okay, I haven't figured out one that I want yet.
It's just any Astra Militarum or core stratagem. Like, anything. Every turn, you just get it for free.
Is it free or 1 less?
1 less, 2-0.
Okay.
So, anything that costs 1. I mean, there's no, like, strong reason to take them that I've found yet. But there's also, they just do, like, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's fair.
So, it's hard to evaluate.
All right.
I like them. And I'm also, I like the books.
Look, I get it. We should paint them up.
We should. All right. Tonk Commander.
Tonk Commanders.
Big Tonks.
Tonk Commanders are weird because mechanized orders are great, so you want tank commanders. They're also only 10 more points than a Leman Russ. You're like, 10 points for a Leman Russ with orders. That's so much better than a Leman Russ. But then tank commanders don't benefit from orders.
Yeah, they don't order themselves.
So it's a very weird thing because I think tank commanders are real good, but it's 10 extra points for a Russ that doesn't order other Russ, and that orders other Russ but doesn't order itself and doesn't receive orders. So it's a Russ that makes other Russ better without getting better itself, and it costs more. And that's weird.
You can do lead by example.
You can do lead by example if you want to, which is a good warlord trait.
And then you issue the order to yourself, and does it splash at that
Yep,
point?
then it would splash.
So it hits everyone within 6 inches of you, which instead of one unit within 12, and then everyone within 6 inches of that. But then it applies to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think tank commanders are great because Russ are great.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm at. I think you take some for every Russ that you take.
Yeah. If you take more than like 2 Russ, you're going to want a tank commander.
Yes. I think Leontis over here, we'll get to in a second. You know, I mean, Gaunt's Ghost would be like really good if it was really hard to get Profectus orders. Tank commanders would be a lot better if it was really hard to get tank orders. But it's just not. It's very easy.
It is very easy to get tank.
So I think that really hurts the mechanized orders off the tank commander because it's hard. I mean, it's easy to get them elsewhere.
And for the record, for people watching this, I think we're grading this book as if every model was out.
Yes.
So we'll give the caveat, which is that if Leontis is not allowed at a local event because, the model's not out yet, we don't know what base size he is, etc. I don't want a proxy, sure. At that point, I think a tank commander stock would go up.
Yep,
and tank commander is very good. It also can take Gatekeeper, which is quite a strong relic.
Yeah, I like Gatekeeper a lot. 6 plus D3 shots at strength.
Strength. I think it's 933.
I think it's 933. Yeah,
great profile.
Yeah.
I think that the tank commander's at like the very top of strong choice. It's a borderline tournament staple, and if Leontis isn't included, it probably is.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a tournament staple if Leontis isn't around. The problem is you can get this role for cheaper. If you want Gatekeeper, that's why you include it. It's good. You can take lead by example. I'm not against it. I think that's probably fine. If you have Leontis and a tank commander, Leontis can order the tank commander, and then that's fine.
Yep, easy.
But I think they're pretty good. They're basically a 10-point more Rust that gets a relic, doesn't get an order unless you jump through hoops.
Yeah, it's a lot there.
All right.
Let's talk about Mr. Straken.
Let's Straken out.
So Straken he's basically like the same. Well, he's not even the same profile. He has a weird profile. He's T4 with a 3-up armor save.
Yep.
Weapon skill 2. He's like a Cadian Castellan that like got juiced up on combat.
6 attacks too.
Yeah.
And I think his Warlord trait makes him good in combat.
His Warlord trait
weirdly
does
enough.
make him good in combat. His Warlord trait's actually quite good. You have gone past it.
What is it? Double exploding 6s or something?
It's like Tesla 6s and +1 to wound in combat or something ludicrous.
Yeah, that is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's +1 to wound in combat and Tesla in combat. And there are a lot of factions that would break the game with this Warlord trait. Luckily, this is Guard, and this is like the best combat character that can take this Warlord trait. And Straken is simply a good combat character. He's not crazy.
He's like, I don't even think he's that good of a combat character. With that Warlord trait, he's a good combat character.
He's 6 attacks at strength 6, AP 3 damage 2. And that is a perfectly good profile.
Yep, nothing wrong.
That is like a Tyrannid Prime.
Yep.
And that's okay. That's a good thing to charge intercessors with.
Yep, but if you give him his Warlord trait, Straken does bang.
Yeah, Straken's pretty cool.
Yeah, Straken hits pretty hard. Is that a thing that Guard need? To be determined. He doesn't hit hard enough to like really punch serious units out of combat, but he hits fairly hard. Like he'll mess up a squad of Marines pretty bad.
Yeah. For context, Tesla is every 6 to hit is 2 additional hits.
Yeah, it's
not just exploding 6s. It is big exploding 6s.
Every 6 is 3 hits. Let me put it that way. Yeah, he hits really hard if he has his Warlord trait. That costs a CP. Not fun to do that. If I'm going to be honest.
Also,
he
has
rerolls
to be the Warlord because you can't buy a Warlord trait for non.
I think that's totally fine though. It only hurts you on conversion where losing your
or if there was someone else that you wanted as a Warlord, like another named character.
True. Which
yeah, I think the Straken I hate. So he's 75 points.
He also rerolls wounds against monsters.
That's also really cool.
Yes.
So at 75 points, Straken is 25 more than the Castellan for the same order effect, and he just brings combat. And he's 5 points cheaper than Creed, who is much better at orders.
Yes.
And he's like a weird in-between where I think he doesn't do either role great. You just take him because you like Catachans and combat.
In exchange, what he gives you is some pretty good combat.
Yep.
Like, honestly, yeah, XV Broadside, that right hook comes in and hits hard.
Absolutely, yeah. Straken punches.
Also, whenever he gives an order to a unit, this is kind of weirdly useless. Every model in that unit makes a melee attack, unless it's against a vehicle, hit rolls of 6 auto wound. I don't think you want to be mixing it up in combat anyway, like no matter what.
Yeah, you could maybe do some cute things with Rough Riders.
You can. I think, spoiler alert, Rough Riders kind of suck.
Well, that's harsh, but I think they're okay.
I think they're bad. We'll get to Rough Riders when we get to Rough Riders. I just don't see a unit that you really want to buff up with this because you can't give it to Bulgryn.
Correct. Yeah, that is the sad part.
Yeah.
So Straken, I think he falls into perfectly average.
I think so.
He's still an officer with a captain aura and a source of regimental orders, and those are all good things. Again, he gains bonus points because of the 4 different characters in this army that give an aura of reroll 1s. 3 of their models are not out yet. So.
Yeah. For now, Straken is probably like...
Oh, I have Straken in my current lists.
Because he's just a better choice than the other stuff you have access to. You don't have access to him, or her. You just don't have access to the Castellan, don't have access to Leontis or Creed. And so at that point, he's right up there. But once everyone's out, he's a little further down. I also don't want to get too in detail about where exactly in each tier units go. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Let's talk about the big man, Pony Express.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Leontis.
I just figured I'd skip a little bit of the waiting there. You want to go over what this bad boy does?
So Leontis is expensive by guard standards. We're talking about 50-point Castellan, 75-point Strakens. Leontis is 170. He's like the only non-tank character that you can put a third digit on. But they did give him stuff for that. So Leontis has to be the warlord, and he's the supreme commander. He's the big boy in charge. If you take him, he's the warlord, and his warlord trait CP regen. What he does is he's an officer on a horse, and he's there for 8 wounds, still only T4. He moves around 12 inches, and he specifically orders whatever he wants. He gives 3 orders.
Yep.
He can issue tank orders, commissar orders, or regiment orders, or perfectus or mechanized if we're being technical. He can order officers because he's in charge, not them.
Yeah, you're just listening to Leontis.
Yeah, he is both a captain and a lieutenant. So he's the aura of reroll 1s to hit and wound for all core units. Pretty solid. He also gets to pick someone with a command phase buff in addition to his normal orders. And that unit, if it's core, rerolls all hits and wounds. But if it's a character or battle tank, it merely rerolls all hits. So we can just give Chapter Master to a tank, or full rerolls to hit and wound to a Kasrkins squad. Your choice, really, dealer's choice. He also has the Collegiate Astralex, which lets him either get +1 CP at the beginning of the game or change a secondary after your opponent has revealed theirs.
Which will come up very rarely, but occasionally will. Occasionally will.
Kind of nice, and his warlord trait CP regen, so I don't feel bad about that either.
No, the +1 CP is most of the time what it's going to be, and it's going to be very good. And occasionally, you and your opponent both pick Assassinate or something, and you just change yours to something else, so your opponent has to come to you.
Yeah, or your opponent picks some disrespectful secondaries, they pick Warp Ritual, and you're like, maybe I do want to kill your Psykers now.
It's going to come up rarely. Most of the time, it's just +1 CP, but I like that there's a little bit of a...
Yeah, I like that there's some choices. So then, he's got good stats as well. Again, T4, 8 wounds, 3 up armor isn't anything crazy, but he has a 4 up invuln and he halves damage. He's a little bit harder to kill.
Yeah, T4 does mean a lot of single damage quantity attacks will kill him.
Yeah, you can drag Leontis down if you really hit him with something real. But a random character, a random combat character connecting with Leontis probably doesn't kill him.
Probably doesn't. But weirdly enough, an orc boy squad probably does.
Yeah, that's pretty... Yeah, that could happen believably. He's good shooting, good combat, nothing crazy. But he's got 2 shots at 8.33 at 12 inches with his pistol.
Like that.
And then his
Soul's Righteous Gaze.
Yeah, and then his combat is just 6 attacks at weapon skill 2. Strength 6, AP 3 damage 2. Again, he's good for bullying intercessors, and he's good for shooting holes in things that get too close to you. But he's mainly there to give a lot of command phase buffs.
Yes.
He does a lot, and that makes me think he's going to be in most lists. I actually don't think that he is a mandatory tournament staple, but boy howdy is that give full rerolls to something that bops.
I will not hear that he's not a tournament staple. Look at this Kasrkin unit right here. Look it in the eyes.
I get it.
And tell it does not want to reroll hits and wounds.
No, it does want to reroll hits and wounds. It really does want to kill 3 units a turn. With that said, I since I've been writing lists without Leontis under the assumption that I don't have the model, which I don't. I've been able to write good lists without Leontis, and it's been pretty okay.
I mean, fair. I think you could write lists without the Finial. You could write lists without Kasrkin to be fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good options here, so I'm to be clear, I'm very okay leaving Leontis in tournament staples, but I think you can write lists without him, and it's still good. Because, like, if I just take a second tank commander for the same cost as Leontis, I'm usually not mad about that.
Yeah. I think tournament staple is where I would want to put him.
Yeah.
But I do agree that there is a certain element of he has the same points as a tank commander. He gives a lot more buffs, but he isn't a tank.
Yeah, he does not shoot as hard as a tank commander.
Yeah. He gives a lot more buffs, though. It feels like a more of Vol sort of scenario where the army just revolves around Leontis. And, like, that's fine. I'm not against that.
If you take him, for sure.
Yeah. People are talking about why he halves damage. He's a Lord Solar, okay? He is one of the High Lords of Terra. He has some kind of relic keeping him alive. In this case, it is an Artificer Refractor Helm.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, you can't have a Supreme Commander who gets, like, bopped by a one Melta shot. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, the standard cannot be a bad string of dice leads to one Combi Melta killing Lord Solar.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah,
If you get shot by a multi-melt at point blank and you roll bad, fine, you're dead.
It's just like, he is a High Lord of Terra. It makes sense he has relics, you know?
I'm all right with that part.
Yeah. No, it's not his horse, XP Broadside, I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, the horse actually, like, doesn't contribute any of his rules.
It just ups the movement characteristic from 6 to 12.
Yeah, and presumably gives him that point of toughness.
Yeah,
that's about it.
The point of toughness. Presumably some of the wounds as well.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, Leontis good. Leontis real good. I definitely will play him as soon as I get the model. Yes. But also, I've kind of not missed him as much as I thought I would when I was running without him. We'll just kind of keep testing.
I get that.
All right, we ready?
Brad, even though it was over 120 points, Brad has come around to him being good.
Yeah, Leontis does fit in my lists mainly because he solves the HQ problem of my battalion.
Yes,
and that is very important to me.
All right, finally, or not finally, we have 3 more HQs left to go. Oh my God, this is happening. We have a Militarum Tempestus Command Squad.
Oh God, this is all the way in the back. This makes me heartbreakingly sad.
Yeah,
like I'm sorry, Tempestus Command Squad. So Tempestus Command Squad is a 90-point command squad with a 4-up armor save that can deep strike. And those sound like decent things.
Artorius Rex says laughs in Meltagun delivering 8 damage to Abaddon because banner.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
That's some pretty good stuff.
So the Tempestus Command Squad, for 15 points, it's a command squad with a 4-up armor save that can deep strike. And for 15 points, and also I think they might be +1 attack on some of their stuff. They genuinely might even be +1 ballistic skill. They're like, all of these things sound like a better command squad.
Yeah, they're not bad.
But then you dive deeper into it. I'm actually gonna get to the bottom.
Do they have a banner?
They do have a banner.
Oh, that was the command squad right there.
Did I?
Yeah, you just looked right at it and passed it.
Yeah, I didn't have a picture. You know what? They are a +1 ballistic skill.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. Not in the context of like Militarum Tempestus, but just how good is this unit? Regimental standard.
Yeah, so you can get access to the relic.
You get access to the finial. You probably don't want to deep strike them, but you can if you want to. Mm-hmm. They have a command rod.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to do that
because
the command rod do? It means Perfectus orders in addition to regimental, but you can only issue the Perfectus to Tempestus Scions units.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. I honestly, for the first half, I was like, maybe I do want that.
Yeah, you would probably. Their meta pack gives a 5-up feel no pain. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
Yeah, same as the regular command squad.
Same as the regular. They can all take special weapons. So you can give them 4 hotshot volley guns, 4 plasma guns.
They can all take the same.
Any number. Damn it! More than once. You can only pick each one once.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, they're building to the kit.
Yeah. So the problem is that, like, giving deep strike to a command squad means that the unit, if you use that option, cannot issue an order until turn 3 at best.
I don't think you deep strike, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, well, now it's just a walking command squad. And like, am I going to pay 15 points for my walking command squad to do a little bit different stuff? Like, it's ballistic skill 3, whoop-de-doo, and a 4
that does help.
Sure, but like, I'm trying not to shoot this unit. Because like, when you take the banner and the med pack, you're like, oh wow, I'm not actually taking any weapons.
Yeah, the banner doesn't apply to their own unit.
Also doesn't apply to them. The 4-up armor save is, sure, that's nice for 15 points, but the unit's not regimental. so they don't get traits.
Yeah, they do have 6s to hit, they have exploding 6s to hit. 6 to hit are 2 hits.
Yeah, and that's cute. But again, like, if I'm not really buying these for the weapons.
Yeah,
so
fair.
it's like,
I mean, they do have hot shot lasguns,
which
as part of their kit.
Yep, is strictly better than having a lasgun.
Yeah, which is what the regular command squad has. They're like actually not that bad because you give them the finial. They're 15 points more. They have a better armor save. They don't get transhuman.
It still feels like a worse version of a command squad. The lack of regimental, meaning they don't get a trait, really sucks.
They do get a trait. It's 6s to hit or an additional hit.
Sure, but they don't. Yeah, but not having regimental is just sad.
Sure, it is sad, but I don't think it matters that much.
Make me cry every time.
I don't think it matters on them that much. I think Born Soldiers is the one you're taking most of the time.
Yeah, it just feels like you're just paying a little bit more for random buffs on this unit that they just in no way need.
Yeah, I think you're paying a little bit more, and you get better armor save, which is cute.
I'll give the caveat, which is that if you're going Scion heavy, this is the only way to get Scion Warlord traits. And Scion Warlord traits are really awesome with only one downside.
They specify Scions?
Yeah, they all specify Scions. It's the darndest thing.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, like it's like double the shots with your rapid fire weapons. That sounds great. Ignore cover in an aura. That's also great. Improve AP by 1 when you make ranged attacks within half range. Those are all great warlord traits.
Yeah, those are really good warlord traits.
Those are 3 really good warlord traits that only affect Scions. That makes me very sad.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see a Scion list that has like you take 3 command squads at that point because each one has a ludicrous buff. And then at that point, you're going to get sad very quickly. But
once you finish out the list with Scions.
Yeah.
I think it goes into perfectly average because, it feels like the worst of the 3 command squads, unfortunately.
Slightly worse. I don't think it's actually that much worse than a platoon.
No, not significantly. But, why am I adding 15 points so that I can do hot shot last
for
shots?
The secondary, where does a banner need to be in order for you to...
In your opponent's deployment zone or in the middle.
And it gives you, what, 1 extra point?
1 point. I
Yeah,
just don't know if I'd pay 75 points to...
Against good opponents, you're not getting the center. Like, that's just not happening. In their deployment zone, maybe, because they're not going to screen you out for that, but then you're sacrificing the unit for 1 point, and I'm just not into that.
It doesn't even count, and, they're not a so even though technically nothing's a regiment unit, you can't actually score the secondary.
Oh, right, because they need to change it to regimental.
Also, assuming they change regiment to regimental, the Scions still won't score points for being in a quarter because they're definitely not regimental or regiment.
Oh, jeez, Christ, Games Workshop.
Yeah, so
all right, yeah.
I think unfortunately that they're just perfectly average. There's nothing inherently wrong with the Scion Command Squad. It's just a little more expensive than a normal command squad. But the damning part of it is if I was going to take a Scion Command Squad, I would take it to order normal dudes.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
What else would I do?
And I really think that the 4-up armor just is not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Man, I just checked the Tempestus Command Squad command rod to see if there was another, if I could use it to order a Scion Squad and then have it
nope.
Explode other people.
No, they put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So all right. I think we can move on from the command squad.
All right. Primaris Psyker.
Primaris Psyker is a nice 60-point Psyker that casts 2. That's very
efficient.
It's a very reasonably costed cast 2 Psyker with no thought spared for defense, command phase buffs, or offense, and that's fine. It is exactly what a guard character should be, which is a T3 idiot without much defense who does their job.
Yep.
And they get access to good spells. Primaris Psyker is just not bad.
Good spells too. Actually good spells.
Let's give the highlights. So notably you can give a unit a 5-up Benbolt. You can make a unit trans hitman, but you do get the reroll still. Where are these spells?
They're in there.
We're gonna find them. No,
nope.
Jack, I'm committed. I'm finding this.
I know. There you go. All right.
So give a unit 5-up Benbolt, make a unit trans hitman, a nice movement debuff.
-2 move characteristic, -2 advance and charge rolls.
Yeah,
which is very solid.
It's a good movement debuff right there.
Yeah, if honestly, you can probably get in range to where a CSM army can't really deny it, and then just hit their Chaos Terminator brick over and over and over again.
Hilariously so.
Yeah, make them move 3 with -2 advance, -2 charge.
Then you shoot them with tanks and be another -2 move, and you're like, ha 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 ha.
It's like you're having fun now, right? And they're like, I move 1 inch and charge at -2.
Yes, correct.
I'm
Glad you
having a
understand.
lot of fun.
Yeah, so all good things here, I think.
I honestly think it's a strong choice. It's
Absolutely.
60 points.
Yeah, it's a good HQ choice.
The only cost is it's an HQ choice.
That is the biggest problem, is that I think it's worth the points. It's not always worth the slot, but that is an army problem that you get to make as a general when you're like, I have too many good HQ choices. Yeah, none of us feel bad.
What do you think about a brigade with guard?
I have acquired a third sentinel so that I can run a brigade.
Interesting.
The only reason I've not done it so far is because we didn't own enough fast attack choices without using rough riders that aren't legal. Per se.
In a brigade, the Primaris Psyker probably has to compete more for points than slots.
Yeah, because then you have to fill out all the tax and then come back to the Primaris Psyker because he's not in your first three.
But even so,
He's really good.
it's really good.
Yeah, as you've seen, we've only been doing HQ slots so far, and the worst options are still pretty decent.
Yep.
Like, there's been no duds.
All right. Let's
do Creed and then speed run these attaches.
Yeah, the attaches can
Creed
Creed
is my
Ursula
favorite.
Creed.
Ursula Creed's my favorite character in this book. Ursula Creed has no time for your problems. She only has gun.
Again, not particularly ranking in slot, you know.
I would put her in number 1, to be clear.
All right, fair enough.
I'll say it. So Ursula Creed is an 80
you
point.
love Creed.
I do love Creed. Ursula Creed is an 80-point Castellan. Everything that the Castellan does, she also does. She's an officer who issues 2 orders. Oh wait, there's also a third. And then she's an order of reroll ones. That's great. Good thing. Her warlord trait, if she's the warlord, is the redeploy one, which means that you're not like taking her and being like, darn, I'm running low on characters to take the good traits on. She comes with a good trait if you want her to be the warlord. In addition to that,
Wait, which one is it?
her warlord trait is the redeploy.
Oh, yeah, that's
That's
solid. That's
one of the
powerful.
ones you want. So I'm really okay with that. So she gives out a third order. So
Strong.
For 30 points more than Castellan, you get a third order. Castellan's paying 25 points an order. She's paying like 26.7 points per order. Perfectly reasonable. When she's on the battlefield, you can use the command reroll stratagem twice per phase instead of once.
Which
I don't often do that.
you need to blunt a
Autarch
turn
has
of
it.
shooting. Like you need to blunt a turn of your opponent's shooting, and the game's going to come down to this one turn. 2 defensive rerolls, pretty good.
My opponent's been sitting out of line of sight like a coward for 2 turns, and they're finally in line of sight, and I need to kill them all in one go. Reroll that. Genuinely, I would use it to reroll a 1 on number of shots for a tank twice.
Yep.
If I just was in that spot where I'm like, yep, I've got 1 turn for all the marbles, I would just do it twice.
If it's worth it the first time,
It's probably worth it the second
Probably
time.
worth it the second time. And then she does cool stuff.
Each time this model issues an order to a unit until starting your next command phase, it is +1 strength to all of its ranged attacks. It only affects the original target, not the splash.
Yes. So the trick to do this is if you have 3 mortar teams, you give 2 of them random orders that don't matter, and then you give the third one take aim and then splash it to the other 2. And oh look, they all got an order from her, and so they're all strength 6 AP1.
Yeah.
You can't get them to AP2. They're AP1. They're AP0 base.
AP0
right?
base, they go to AP1 with take aim.
Yes. So they go to strength 6 AP1. Mortars is really good if they have +1 to
You
hit.
can get them to AP2 if you use a 2 CP stratagem and roll 6 as a wound. You're not going to.
You're not
It's against
doing
one
that.
target. But
Yeah,
like,
no.
theoretically, if someone got shot by an AP2 mortar and they're wondering how it happened, that was how it happened. It's not literally impossible, just hard to do. And not
Tom
worth
just
it.
had a brain fart and he mixed it up.
Got
the
it,
base. Yeah, strength 6 AP1 mortars with +1 to hit. 3 units of them is ludicrous. The new field artillery in here, where are you? There you are. The new field artillery. Oh, you can't see that on the screen. Goes to strength
love
8 AP3.
That's a
with +1.
great buff for them.
That is a great buff. With
a
+1 to hit. Yeah.
Reddit has exploded because rules is written you can order a unit 3 times in a row and then have it be strength +3.
Sure,
However, that's not real.
That's not real, and also it's not better than giving 3 units +1 strength.
It is usually not.
No.
But the idea of finally getting my hotshot lasgun to strength 7 does appeal to me.
That is like the hotshot lasguns would be pretty good.
But like whatever, I'm not even rolling to wound.
Strength 6, right?
You +1 strength against vehicles.
Sure.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Usually for like the indirect stuff, which is where I think she's great, is getting mortars and the field batteries up to a multiple, like an even number. So getting mortars up to strength 6 means they wound toughness 3 on 2s, and they wound toughness 5 on 3s, both of which are amazing.
Absolutely, yep.
And then field batteries going to strength 8 means that they are A, good into vehicles now, and B, they
into
are
T4.
great into toughness 4. And so those breakpoints happen to matter quite a lot. If mortars were strength 4, it wouldn't be quite as important, but going to strength 5 is still good.
Yeah.
But the fact that toughness 5 gets wounded on 3s by mortars means that
T3 on 2s feels real nice if you've got a reroll 1s aura.
Oh yeah, it
that
does.
backfill as
Oh
well
yeah,
from
wound them on 2s, re-rolling, and then you're
Yeah.
like, you get +1 to your save, but I'm AP1, so go back to your 4s and take a lot of them, please.
It is, yeah. No,
Yeah.
Creed, I think she's fantastic. Mainly, it's the budget. She's 80 points. Like, she's not crazily better than a Cadian Castellan, but for 30 points more, yeah, I will pay 30 points for this upgrade every time.
And again, because I'm seeing it in chat a little bit, we do not know what Games Workshop's designs are here on whether or not Guard keep the indirect nerf or keep the immunity to the indirect nerf or anything. We are assuming based off comments they've had and the fact that like Born Soldiers just straight up replaces Hammer of the Emperor, that Guard will not keep the data slate stuff. And that's what we're ranking this on here. But if they do, obviously indirect becomes completely absurd. And
Yeah, if they keep the indirect immunity, problems.
the game like ends for like 3 months. I really don't want that.
Yeah, that's not fun for anyone.
No, because it's also like the game ends in the most boring way where, indirect becomes nuts.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then everyone's just doing rushdowns and planes and people that don't care about indirect, and it's like, oh, great, yay.
Yeah, the meta becomes like cancer. But I think that
I
they
think
will
they
not.
know. I think they know that.
I think they know.
That's not going to be a thing.
And I think we're safe there. Although Guard Indirect with the nerf
Still
is
pretty good.
Still pretty good.
Best indirect in the game.
Yeah, actually, it's still the best indirect in the game.
Before we move off of Creed, I'm just going to tell Jack that she has Relic Pistol. And her Relic Pistol is like shockingly good. It's only 12 inches, but it's Pistol 4 at Strength 5, AP 3, Damage 2.
Wow, that is very good.
That is a perfectly reasonable Relic Pistol right there, and I'm not mad about it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't even have Bodyguard to protect you. Yeah, no, your Bodyguards are dead too. But all right,
Everything
that's
dies. It's terrible.
That's it for Creed. Creed's great. She's my favorite named character in the book. I'm 100% okay putting her as a tournament staple. As soon as that model's out, I expect her in almost every list. I cannot imagine a list that does not have Leontis or Creed, for the record. I could not imagine a list that I would play that doesn't have at least
That
one
actually
of those.
explains to me why you're not lukewarm on Leontis, but you're like, take him or I could do other stuff.
Yeah.
Is because Creed is kind of filling the same role for you.
Yeah.
And I think I 100% agree. You're taking one of those two.
Yeah, the only reason to not take both is because you are running 12 Russ without sponsons and checks note 0 CP to start.
Oh god, those lists are gonna be so boring and they're gonna be good.
And I will not be doing that. But if you wanted to, hats off to all of you tank aficionados.
Yep.
Let's power slam through these
Speed run the attaches. What do they do? The Astralpath is a psychic action that goes off on a 7 to give you a CP.
So let's go through the first three like the little idiots. They're all T3 1 wound dudes with a 5-up save that you pay points for to add to a command squad.
Sounds
great.
good.
They're all good. And they all come with their own unique thing. So the Master of Ordinance,
which is this guy right here.
Yep, he picks an enemy unit within 30 and visible, and friendly artillery makes a ranged attack against it. Hit roll of 1. It is hard to give artillery roll 1s, so this is nice, but it has to be within 30 inches invisible of this guy. And if at that point you can see someone, usually I just shoot them with not artillery stuff.
Yeah, if you can see them, Guard have multiple ways to put them in the ground. Artillery for when you can't see them.
And his stratagem is a 2 CP orbital that's not anything amazing.
Cool, so Flawed Tropes?
Yep, fine with that.
Cool. Master of the Fleet.
Master of the Fleet is the exact same thing, but he gives friendly Aeronautic Imperialis reroll hit roll of 1.
Cannon
However, oh no, Jack. He does come with a stratagem.
Okay. He has no head. Look at him.
I get it. The data sheet for the Officer Fleet is worthless.
Yeah,
but
garbage.
he comes with a stratagem.
If I want to give my Valkyries reroll 1s to hit against a target with qualifiers.
To be fair, Aeronautic Imperialis does include like 12 forge roll data sheets.
They're all bad.
Some of them are mediocre. But yeah, none of them are worth taking compared to Russ. However, the stratagem is when your opponent tries to bring something in from reserves, spend CP and they can't. And they have to wait a turn.
Yeah, it doesn't work on turn 3, but you can
Turn
keep
1 or
drop
2.
pods out.
Yeah, or you can your opponent's turn 2 reserves, which is mainly useful if your opponent is the kind of person who sees a lot of guns and is like, boy, maybe I should deep strike Bellicor.
Oh, yeah, Be'lakor showing up turn 3 at that point.
Yeah, then you're just like...
2 CP, Be'lakor doesn't come in turn 2.
Yeah.
All right, I will upgrade him to flawed choice.
I would even have said perfectly average. He's not above that. But
it's so
I'm fine
niche.
With it is. Yeah, I'm fine with
because it's 2 CP to keep it out,
points.
to keep one specific unit out for a turn, right? Yeah. The problem is anything that's trying to like alpha strike you from reserves is going to have more than one unit, and keeping one unit out probably isn't going to make a big difference. And 2 CP is a lot. If
we ever get to a drop pod meta again, I would 100% slam him.
Sure. He's cheap, right? How much is
25 points.
Oh, that's not actually that cheap.
Yeah.
For access to a 2 CP strat that I'm not even sure I want to use.
Finally, the Astralpath.
Yep.
It's 40 points for a budget Primaris Psyker. The pros here, so it casts 1 spell, not 2. And it can only access the first 3 of the spells, not all of them.
Okay,
But it's protected by a command squad. And even though the Astropath isn't a character itself, the unit has character, which means that it can still do psychic actions.
That's pretty cute.
And then it knows another psychic action, which is Warp Charge 7, a little shaky there, plus 1 CP.
Which isn't probably as good if you have Leontis, better if you don't.
Yeah, if you're not taking CP regen, the Astropath feels better.
Going off on a 7, you don't have to spend a CP on it to get it.
You're just rolling the dice every turn and seeing what happens.
It's
fine,
I think.
I like the access to a psychic secondary, especially because it doesn't take up an HQ slot.
Yeah,
because you are taking a command squad and you may not take a Primaris Psyker. I actually think it's better than the Primaris Psyker because it doesn't take up a slot.
You think so?
Yeah.
It knows 1, casts 1. It's 40 points. The Primaris Psyker is 60.
I'm mainly using it for psychic actions, I think.
But then you have to get the command squad in the center, and it's much...
Correct.
I don't know about that, my man.
Step 1, kill everyone in the center. Step 2, 12 on Warp Ritual.
That's just not how that works, and you know it. Like,
once everyone's dead in the center, you can do whatever you want.
We don't take 1 Psyker to do Warp Ritual, and we definitely don't take a 1 wound Psyker that's part of a command squad to do it.
The nice part is that when he perils, you can put the wounds on the lasgun idiots.
Sure. Well, in which case you're killing models.
You can
he's down here. Doing psychic actions with a single character is usually pretty shaky because your opponent will go super out of their way to kill him. And they might expend a lot of resources, but if they make your psychic action a 0, it's worth it.
And if they kill the Finial, it's pretty bad too.
Yeah, that's right.
So then you've got the 2 different types of Ogryn Bodyguard.
It also forces the Finial to go in a place it might not want to be.
Maybe take 2 command squads. Probably not going to.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Ogryn Bodyguard and Nork Deadhog.
Right.
Nork Deadhog is the named Ogryn Bodyguard. These are really good stat lines for points. So they're, I think, 55 and 60 points each.
I think so. You can res them, right?
You can res them because they're just an infantry model that's not an officer. So you can res them with a stratagem with a med pack.
Yeah, 50 and 60.
Great, 50 and 60. That's
and
perfectly
then
reasonable.
you can give them a Bulgryn Maul, a Bulgryn Plate, and Slab Shield.
Yep.
Bulgryn Plate, I think, takes the armor save up to a 4+. Mm-hmm. But if you give them a Slab Shield instead, they have a 2+.
I would just take the Brute Shield because it's free and just rock a 4-up invul. Call it there.
Yeah, 6 wounds, 4-up invul, -1 damage.
5-up feel no pain if there's a med pack in the squad.
Yeah, you don't take Bulgryn Plate or Slab Shield,
No,
I think.
you just... And at that point, you're at the point where a random combat unit that comes and manages to get a swing on your command squad once does not do it.
Not even close. Not even like a random command, like a random damaging unit, like a good
demon,
damaging unit.
A Demon Prince comes and connects with your command squad. By the time it has killed the Ogryn Bodyguard, there are no longer enough attacks.
Well, and you also use this guy's toughness. So now the entire unit becomes toughness 5.
Correct. Yeah, they're great.
So hold on, a unit of Sanguinary Guard.
All right, let's go.
Hitting hitting with all the buffs.
Sure.
With a unit with swords, right? You go in, you hit. It's 34 hits. You're wounding on 3s, so because it's toughness 5.
Yeah, so it's about 23 wounds.
23 wounds. Half of that go away.
Okay, so it's like
So
12.
how many does it take to kill this guy? Because he functionally has 9 wounds.
Yeah, he's got 8 or 9.
He's got 6, and then because of 5-up feel no pain, it makes it 9.
So
and
18.
So 18. So 18 of those go completely away. So it's like 23 wounds. And so after
the next
all of that,
5, does that finish off the squad?
Probably not.
Yeah, if you got 1 guy left, you can start resing.
Yep. So a 7-man unit of Sanguinary Guard with every buff probably doesn't kill the unit.
Well, then you got to take Nork Deadhog for the 7th wound.
Yeah, but he doesn't have an invuln.
Yep, never mind.
No, you're not. I think the Ogryn Bodyguard is actually insane.
It is really good. It's just a question of how often do you need defense on your Yeah, we are factoring in the minus.
We're factoring if we didn't factor in -1 damage, he would have dropped a long time before that.
Nork Deadhog, I think, is just poor because he doesn't have the toughness.
Yeah, he doesn't have an invuln.
And it's only a 4 armor.
Yeah,
and that makes me sad. And he's like an extra wound and better combat in ways that I don't care about. Frankly, but the Ogryn Bodyguard is fantastic points. It's just, do I need my command squad to be tougher, or do I need people to, or just make sure people never hit me in the first place? If I'm trying to do this Astropath thing where I'm pushing the command squad in the middle, there's also an Ogryn in there 100% of the time.
Yeah. No, Ogryn I think is a strong choice.
Agreed.
I think Nork is a flawed choice.
Fully agreed.
The invuln is actually what turns him insane. I don't think you take the death mask of Elenius Pius. We didn't even factor in transhuman, which you can do.
Oh yeah, if you transhuman because it's Cadian.
It's awesome. 17 wounds. You don't even kill the Ogryn.
Love that.
That's insane. A full squad of Sanguinary Guard hits the unit, 1 CP, you don't even kill the Ogryn.
It's really close though, but if they do.
If they do, you just res them back. Yeah, this guy is really good, really obnoxious to kill. Now, to be very fair, I think Sanguinary Guard are one of the better profiles for him to be defending point for point.
But it's still ludicrous to say that out loud.
Yes, because they are 2 damage, high AP. He doesn't care about that. But yeah, he's just incredibly tough. Like, oh my god.
All right, we're ready to hit the troops?
Yep.
I'm glad that we found at least one below average thing in the HQ shell slot. Let's talk about the 4 infantry squads here. So we have Catachan infantry squads.
Right here.
Infantry squads.
Right here.
Cadian infantry squads.
Right here.
And Death Corps of Krieg veterans, which are still infantry squads, not actually veterans.
These are probably going to be hard to tell apart.
Yep.
They are going to be hard to tell apart on the table as well.
Absolutely, because people are going to use the models interchangeably, guaranteed. And just pray that your opponent isn't the kind of person to run 2 different types of infantry squads. Because if I ever ran some infantry, some Cadian, some Kriegsmen, then I'd feel obligated to make them very different models. Otherwise, I'm just going to say, yep, all of the Kriegsmen are actually Cadians. Every infantry squad's Cadian. Good, and we'll just move on.
You just use the rules, yeah.
They're all guardsmen, and you know what a guardsman does. Which means they're good. They've just kind of got, like, small differences.
Yeah,
I kind of wanted to do these, like, all 4 at once.
I think all 4 at once is fine. They are very small differences. I think
the small differences do make or break, though.
Yes. I think it's 65 points for infantry or Cadian, 70 for Catachan, 75 for Kriegsmen.
Exactly. Kriegsmen are undoubtedly the best, but the 10 points does matter.
Yes.
Which means that they're not actually the best choice. They're just the best model before you factor in points.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll surprise nobody in this book, but I think Cadian are the best.
Yeah, Cadian are the best. So let's start left to right here. So we've got Catachan.
Right, we got Catachan.
Catachan are easy because they're the worst.
They are by far the worst,
you take the basic stock infantry squad, which is guardsman stats that can buy a heavy weapon and then can buy 1 special weapon. Catachan can buy 2 special weapons but no heavy weapon. But the special weapons they can buy is Flamer and, oh wait, that's the end of the list.
Oh god, it's so bad.
So you can't take Melted Plasma Grenade Launcher. You can take 2 Flamers, and there are 5 more points than a normal infantry squad to not get access to heavy weapon and to only get access to Flamers.
Now they do have a special rule.
Yep.
Their special rule is what? Like
exploding 6s in combat.
A place they don't want to be. Do not let them fool you.
Shockingly enough, that would be quite strong in the old book.
Yes.
But now they are 1 attack, strength 3, and you cannot make them more than 1 attack, which means I don't care.
No, they are very bad.
So let's just slot the Catachan Jungle Fighters in. I would have said flawed choice because it's still objectively, it's only barely worse than a Cadian squad. It's just that a Cadian squad is right there.
They're 10 more points than Kroot.
Yeah, they're not good. You can put them cannon fodder if you want. I don't care.
Fine, they're there.
Sure, they're bad.
Spiritually, they're here.
Spiritually cannon fodder because of how much worse they are than a Cadian squad for no discernible reason.
Yeah, they're more expensive, which is the part that really hurts me. They are actually in flawed choice. They're objective secured. They're an objective secured unit you can buy in your troop slot. There's only so bad that can be, because you still need to buy troops and you want objective secured, but spiritually they're right here.
Leave them there, honestly. I'm okay with them. Is that next one Cadian or infantry?
This one is infantry.
Okay, so that's the old infantry kit.
Yeah.
So this is marked out by the old infantry squad, which is still in print. And this is kind of the default one. So it's 65 points for a guardsman squad. Again, 1 special weapon. You get access to a Voxcaster. You get 1 heavy weapon team. That's all well and good. This is bare bones, totally fine. It comes with a heavy weapon, which means you could take a mortar. That's the only thing it has going for it, is that you could choose to give it a mortar if you were trying to spam even more mortars because you have built that to be the function of your list.
Honestly, don't hate that.
Don't hate that at all.
I mean, I hate it as the opponent, but I don't hate it.
It's it's pretty annoying, but not terrible.
It's very easy to have the orders splash and just do take aim once, and then every troop unit gets it.
I think in practice, it is very rare to actually fire the mortars because my squads are often advancing and raising banners and then dying. And then by the time they're not dying, it's because they're bunkered alone behind a wall, not getting orders anymore because they're far away from everyone because they're just hiding on an objective. Because a guardsman squad line of sight is usually actively doing something or dead.
Yeah, I think you take the mortar if you take a heavy weapon.
If you take a heavy weapon, it's the mortar, just that they have something to do while they're waiting to be launched.
Yeah.
And then when they launch, it's like, forget the mortar, go be OBSEC on that point.
Yep, you're going to advance a lot of the time just running around.
And that's totally okay. So the infantry squad, I think it is a strong choice because it's like OBSEC, but you could put in perfectly balanced because it's in the middle of it.
I think it's imperfectly average, honestly.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Cadian squads, same points cost as an infantry squad. What you get is exploding sixes on las guns only, only las guns, which is perfectly nice but isn't super relevant.
And las pistols, which
It's
is
much better than having it in combat. And then you get access to 2 special weapons. So you could build this to be a Catachan squad with 2 flamers, except your non-flamers have exploding sixes, and you are cheaper, and you have the Cadian keyword, which means you actually get strats. And that is better than a Catachan squad in every discernible way.
even if you take like what might be the worst weapon option.
Yeah, and again, you could also take 2 plasma, 2 melt, or anything else. I think that this is a tournament staple because I think it's the best of the troops, and you do need some troops.
I mean, yeah, but that's how troops work in every army. I think it's a strong choice because rating on its merits. You're strong-armed into taking troops, but I don't think that necessarily means that the data sheet gets better.
I'm fine with that. They're nice just because they're a good action unit, and they help with your secondary gameplay a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not, like, you don't want 100 of them.
No. Like, if a troops choice is in tournament staples, I feel like it's not just it's the best troops choice in the book. I feel like it's a troops choice I would take 7 of, you know?
Like Leviathan Warriors were.
Yeah, or like
troops.
Harlequin troops, yeah.
Totally.
Exactly.
Because they're Cadian, they get access to transhuman, which means they're the most durable potential on a unit.
Let's talk about guys who are more durable probably on average, which are Kriegsmen. They are guardsmen, but with mini transhuman. You can only win them on 3s. You can't win them on 2s.
10 points more than a Cadian squad. You lose the Cadian keyword, and you don't get the exploding 6 on your las guns, but you can do weird things with weapons, and you get baby transhuman, and that is really, really cool.
Yes.
They also get access to a med pack, which gives them ignore the first failed save and the ability to command phase res people. They can have 3 special weapons, but it's one of those is instead of a Vox caster, which you often want. So Cadian squad is always 2 special weapons and a Vox caster, because they're just free. Krieg squad is 3 special weapons or 2 and a Vox caster. The downside of Kriegsmen is that they can't take the plasma as their additional. They come with 1 plasma gun, and then they can buy 2 more special weapons which can't be plasma. So you could have 1 plasma, 2 melta, or you could have Vox caster, 2 melta. But you can't do Vox 2 plasma the way Cadians can. But they come with baby transhuman, and they only cost 10 points more, and that is just altogether good. I don't think it's good enough that I'm crazy about them.
I feel like they end up roughly in the same place as the regular infantry unit.
Fully agreed. There is nothing wrong with this unit. It is good. I think the Cadian one is a little bit better because it's slightly cheaper and you get plasma guns, but who cares?
Speaking of a unit that there's nothing wrong with and I like.
Yeah.
We're in the elites section now. Bulgryn.
They got better.
They did. They got a lot better. I think they are only takeable if you have Leontis. He's the only guy who can order them, and if you order them to fix bayonets on the end of their Bulgryn mauls, they do go to hitting on 2s AP2, which is huge.
I'll give that the caveat. Leontis is the only guy who can give them regimental orders.
You can give them Perfectus.
Mainly for the chat. Commissars can just give them Perfectus orders, which are half as useful. But Leontis getting to choose regimental or Perfectus is great. They're good. They're tougher than they were before because they gain -1 damage. They're like the same points as before. Nothing wrong with Bulgryn.
Yeah, they're tougher. They have an extra attack. If you take Leontis, they hit on 2s, they're AP2.
If you're the kind of shooting player who wants to add some melee in the list to feel a little bit better about being a shooting army, they're probably the best option.
Yeah, I think they are good at handling, like, nonsense that's trying to, like, just tie you up, trying to just get in there.
If there's an Eldar army trying to tag all of your stuff at once and you need to kill it as much as possible, Bulgryn are a great way to go scoop up trash that's trying to kill you.
Yep. They also go clear buildings that perhaps you don't want to, like, you can't really get around behind with some of your tanks. I think they're pretty good, honestly. Like, I think they fill a niche that is just not filled in the rest of the book.
Yeah, funny enough, Guard have really no good way to kill a squad of incursors in a building.
Well, they have one way.
And it's Bulgryn.
It's Bulgryn.
Yep, Bulgryn will absolutely do it, and no joke, there's nothing else in the book that will.
Yep. And honestly, they're pretty tough. They're, 3 wounds, -1 damage?
3 wounds, -1 damage. They can get it to up save very easily.
You give them a 4-up invuln very easily.
Yeah. 30 or 35 points a model, depending on if you want the combat weapon, which
I think
you do.
You do. So they're 35 points a model, which is just very equivalent to a Blade Guard vet.
Yeah. Are you thinking strong or average here?
I think they're strong.
Okay.
I think they're good at their job,
Yeah.
and they're the only thing at that job, and so I think you put them in strong choice. Now, to be fair, if you don't have Leontis, they go light to here, I think. Because hitting on 3's AP1 is just, like, infinitely worse than hitting on 2's AP2.
There you go.
And that's fixed bayonets, yeah. So, I mean, probably not flawed choice, but, like, bottom of perfectly average is probably where they'd end up without Leontis. But with Leontis, I think Bulgryn are actually, like, have a home, which I don't think I can say about regular Ogryn.
Yeah. Regular Ogryn, again, I really like Leontis. The regular Ogryn, because they only have a 5-up armor save, they don't get nearly as much defense built in. They feel like they need to support a lot more. So regular Ogryn, I think you want a Psyker to give them a 5-up invuln, and they love the -1 damage. But again, they love regimental orders because their shooting is like shockingly better than you'd think.
Yep.
Which is that their ballistic skill 4, and their gun is strength 5, AP2, damage 2, and it's assault 3 at 18 inches. And that is way better than it used to be.
Yep, if you order them, if Leontis tells them to take aim, something they've never thought of in their life, like, oh my god, I can aim? Then they aim. They're 15 shots hitting on 3s at strength 5, AP3, damage 2.
Yeah, for a 5-man that's like not that expensive, they're 30 points a model. That's really good shooting.
Like, it actually is. Does it splash too? Like, if you have 3 units of Ogryns for 150 each? No, so Leontis would have to, you just order one.
Target them individually.
And they can go up to 6 models. Yeah, in multiples, they're like really hard to do because Leontis can't use the same order twice, and if it doesn't splash onto them, then
it doesn't really work. One squad sounds cool because then you can also give it the buffs.
All right, I'm kind of sold on one squad.
And with point blank barrage, they can shoot into combat.
That's pretty decent.
Their own combat. To be clear.
Yeah, their own combat. I think that unlike Bulgryn, they don't do something that Guard is lacking. Guard is not lacking ways to kill you at 18 inches in line of sight.
Nope.
But they're not bad at it. I would probably put them up like here.
Yep. Perfectly average. I'm totally okay with that. Again, assuming Leontis is eligible.
It's like a decent amount of shooting, like good shooting too. Like you don't want to get hit by Ripper guns, which you used to be like whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, you used to literally not care. How do you feel about the next one? Kasrkins.
Best unit in the book. One of the best units in the game.
Yep, I would easily.
They are
put it
competing
top 3.
with Flamers right now.
That's probably true. Yeah, I think those are the clear top 2.
Yeah. I think you can make a case for them being a better unit than Flamers. I think Flamers have the edge, but like it's
I think
so
Flamers
close.
are more spammable, but like it's not exactly hard to spam Kasrkins.
No,
either.
it's not. It's
not because it's hard to spam Kasrkins, it's because Flamers just multiply.
I honestly, in terms of like raw impact on matchups, Kasrkin might be better than Flamers because the combination of the finial every buff and then you just shoot people until they go away.
Let's give the cliff notes on why Kasrkin are good. Kasrkin are basically Scions that don't deep strike.
Yep.
But this is statline wise. But then they get regimental. They're 10 points a model, so it's 100 for a unit of 10. You can only take them unit of 10. So they are regimental, which means they get born soldiers. And if you choose to, and they're core and platoons, so if you choose to stack buffs on them, they can get about every infantry-centric buff in the game, or in the codex.
Yeah, so for people who are confused, we were comparing them to Flamers of Tzeentch, the previous consensus wildly best unit in the game.
Yep.
And Kasrkin are close. Like, they're really close, and you can make an argument.
Yeah. They're both insane. So, basically the problem is that if you do born soldiers and you do the stratagem for 5s to hit counting 6 to wound, and then you do the stratagem for 6 to wound being mortals, you can just have Kasrkin split fire in multiple directions, and if Leontis is maybe being a supportive fellow who told him the first rank fire, you can do way more mortals than a 100-point unit for 2 CP should do.
Yeah,
because like 100-point unit with 2 CP, 6 mortals feels right. 1 CP feels like it should be like 3 to 4.
2 CP should not be like 20.
Yeah, because it's an expected value. I think it's about 19.
Yeah.
Like I'd normally just go in 3 places at once and say, let's see if I get 18 mortals, and you've got good odds of that.
It's like super reliable that you get 18 mortals. Because it's capped at 6 mortal wounds per target. So if you fire in 3 directions, each of those targets is going to take 6 mortals pretty reliably. The combo is you give them first rank fire, second rank fire. Then they're near the finial, so they ignore the hit penalty.
And feel no pains.
And feel no pains and phase caps, which is insane. It's the reason they kill 3 Custodian Dreadnoughts. Because they ignore their mortal wounds ignore the feel no pains, which is just not a good rules interaction. But whatever.
Yeah, that should never impact the mortal wounds that spill as well.
Yes.
One thing for the lasguns to do it, the mortals is like, why?
It's one of the reasons why the Reaper of Obliterax is so obnoxious to deal with, is because the mortals also ignore the feel no pains. Like, what are we talking about?
They capped that to 3 and it's still good. This is potentially 18 that have the same rules.
Like, it's like,
and the Reaper's really good. That's not saying the Reaper's bad. Like, this is just insane.
Well, Ben, I think you're only thinking of the 5s to hit, because the regular hit rolls, the 3s and 4s, can also, if you're re-rolling wounds as well, can also roll into 6s, which do more mortal wounds. I think the average is, if you split, you do like 5 5s and 6s to each target, which is a mortal wound and a wound at AP2. Yeah. And then you have a bunch more dice that you can re-roll and get that 6th one on each one. Yeah. So
if you take 2 volley guns, 1 las pistol, and then the rest las guns, it's 30 shots.
Yep. And
so
if
you manage to get perfect split, you just get 10 mortals off the first wave of hits. You reroll 20 dice and you get 6.67. So we're now at 16.67 mortal wounds. And then you have to roll the wound with full rerolls with all the hits.
Yeah.
Like it's too many mortals.
It's like 18 to 20 mortals. It's way too much, and it's way too consistent.
Yeah.
I don't know why they keep putting 6s to hit, 5s to hit, count as 6s to wound in books. It breaks the game every single time, and then they come out with another book, and they've just removed it from Votann because it was ludicrous there, and now Guard have it as well.
And at least I think Kasrkin is the only unit where it's like really impactful. But it is, and it's going to be a problem as soon as it's widely seen.
Yep, and they instantly pick up Abaddon if they see him, like not even close, because they ignore phase caps and they ignore feel no pain, which also, as you were saying, applies to the mortal wounds that spill off it as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, if they're not receiving full buffs, 15 is about what it happens, and that's still too many. But
15 without full support.
Yeah,
it's also they have to be within 12 inches of Leontis, and there's your support.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
Oh, 6 for the rerolls.
Still, too many.
Yeah, I mean, because also you can give the unit Barbican's Key, which is a relic that you can give to a sergeant, which lets them teleport once a game. So you have them chilling near Leontis, and then once a game you just teleport them out and go end worlds. And then also all of those mortal wounds, that's 18 to 20 mortal wounds reliably every single turn that you want to shoot with this, but also you get a bunch of wounds out of that too, and they're AP2.
Yeah. I think Kasrkins, just their profile, are perfectly good, by the way. If you told me that GW is going to put an FAQ in, and it was capped at 6 mortal wounds per unit activation, not per target, that would be a good way to make this unit a strong choice, and it'd probably be a top of strong choice, and I'd still take at least 1 unit of Kasrkins.
You joking me? It would still be in Torment Staples.
Yeah,
it would still probably be the best unit in the book at that point.
No, it wouldn't be better than the rest at that point. I would still take some Kasrkins, I just wouldn't take 30.
Yeah. I think that what they need to do, first off, is just say 6s to hit, don't count as 6s to win.
Also fine with that.
Yeah,
no problem.
Great. Easy, just do the same change they've done for everything, but we'll see if they do.
Great. Why not both? Both at the same time.
Sure. Yeah.
If they did that, I think Kasrkins would still be just really strong choice.
And yeah, I think they are, as Ben Severson says, I think they're good as is, even with no mortals, because it's a lot of shots. It's a lot of shots that are AP2.
If they literally did no mortals, they would probably be bottom of strong choice, because then that's still a unit I would want to take one of, I think.
Yeah. No, I think they would be in strong choice.
Point
even
is,
if they did 0
Kasrkin can
mortals.
have room to get nerfed a good amount and still be a great unit that I want in my army.
Yeah.
As is, they're the top of the list. Shall we do Servitors?
Yeah.
Servitors are the same here as they are in every other Imperium Codex. There's nothing special about them. They don't do anything meaningful. And I'm sorry, but I don't care that they can be taken without filling a role if you also take an Enginseer.
Woo! Yeah, they're not good. Largely, they're not good because you just don't need what they provide in this book.
Yeah, they're so good in some armies. I would kill for my Custodes to have Servitors, but Guard have cheap units that can sit behind walls. I'd rather pay a couple extra points for that to be a heavy weapon team with mortars and be like, oh, now I'm behind a squad and slightly useful.
How many points are they? Can they do actions? Yeah, they can do actions.
Yeah, I think they're 30 points. Let's find out.
I think they're 30 in like everything.
Yeah,
they're not. They're like fine in Space Marines, an army that doesn't have cheap units, whereas this army has cheap units.
40 points.
Why?
Yeah. All right, put them at the bottom.
Yeah, they're in cannon fodder.
Great.
This army does not need what they provide in any way.
All right. Commissar. Commissar good, right?
Commissar good.
Commissar good. Commissar is the cheapest way to get Perfectus orders. He's just a 50-point officer who gives one Perfectus order. And he notably can make you not have to take combat attrition once per turn. Yes. And that's kind of cool as well. Because if you fail a morale check, you can use the ability, and then you automatically pass combat attrition.
I like how that's such a clean way to get the image of him shooting the guy.
Yeah.
Because the first guy starts to run, he shoots him, no combat attrition.
Totally okay with that. You don't auto pass the morale check, but you're only losing one. Totally all right with that. So I think this guy's awesome. He loses a little bit of steam when Leontis comes out, but even then, the Commissar is really cool because he's an infantry who you can do cool transport things with. And notably, the cool transport thing is that officers can issue an order when they get out of a transport. So normally orders are command phase, and command phase orders are good. But giving orders after you get out of a transport means you can do it after unit moves to get in range, or after they have gotten out of a transport themselves, because if they're in a transport, they don't receive the orders. So sometimes you need a unit to get out of a transport and get a Perfectus order. Leontis does not help with that.
Yes.
So
he is a horse boy through and through.
Yep, he's the Pony Express. He doesn't care about transports.
So where would you put old Mr. Commissar?
I think he is the top strong choice. He's like a tank commander to me. I think I would probably take him in a list, and if I'm not taking Leontis, I would take him in a list.
How many points is he again?
50.
That's
sorry,
reasonable.
he's not even. He's 40.
That is super reasonable.
Yeah, Commissar is great value.
Order splashing is huge because that just means you include one Commissar, and you can give a lot of Perfectus orders. You just get one of them, and it applies to a bunch of units.
A Commissar, I have confirmed, is 40 points, and that is great value.
That's great value.
Frankly, he could be tournament staples. I'm all right with that. Yeah, sure. Toss him in. He's great.
Probably not if you take Leontis, but
probably
if you
don't need both at the same time.
Probably don't need both at the same time. Speaking of things that are not great value, let's talk about Ratlings.
Ratlings make me sad.
They almost hit my bottom 10 units in the game list. Like, they're really getting close.
So Ratlings are little boys they're little hobbits with sniper rifles. And that is not anything that you need.
No.
They are, what? Do they forward deploy?
Nope.
Yes, they do.
They do forward deploy?
Yep. Anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from any deployment.
That's cute.
They're not super expensive. I think it's like, is it 40 points for 5?
Nope, they're 10 points apiece.
All right, 50 points for 5.
That is very expensive.
That's really expensive. They're T2 with a 6-up save.
T2, 1 wound with a 6-up save means literally grots murder them. Murder them hardcore in combat.
They are +1 cover. Great. And then they can do a normal move after they shoot or fire Overwatch. Yep, that's it.
They have sniper rifles, which they will hit on 4s with. You can't order them, so they will not be hitting on 3s. Thank you very much.
They're BS3, but they're going to take heavy penalties all the time.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that Leontis can order them. I just don't want to.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Sniper rifles are just not good at killing characters. The sniper rifle profile has not changed since the start of 8th edition, and characters have gotten better. James Roberts says, if the one Perfectus order is worth 40 points, does that change Gaunt's Ghost at all? Honestly, yeah.
Well, the problem that I have is that half the value of the Commissar is that he can get out of a transport and do it.
Still?
And, you can do that with Gaunt's Ghost, but Gaunt's Ghost in a transport means there's no one else in the transport.
But you give out Perfectus orders.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that coming out of a transport?
It's advance and shoot, or advance and action, which you can do after you move someone.
Fine.
You can also,
that's a cool combo.
Yeah, because you can move a unit and then tell them to advance and do stuff.
I do think Gaunt's Ghost has a role.
Yeah. The main problem with me with Gaunt's Ghost is that it's only 50 points less than Leontis. And I can never justify Gaunt over Leontis.
That hurts.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Ratlings, sure. Their sniper rifle is AP1.
you don't need cheap screens, and they're so fragile that they die way too quickly if you're using them as an out there screen.
They also move 5, which is just insulting.
Yeah. The Ratlings aren't very good, and that's okay.
They're 50 points. They're 50 points for 5 wounds, toughness 2, with a 6-up save.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
They die if literally Grots outshoot them. I'm not even joking.
Yep. It's not good. So we've got the
10 Grots are cheaper and murder Ratlings.
But we've got the Regimental Enginseer. He is the exact same tech priest that you could get in AdMech. He's basically the same as the last book, but he does do it a little differently.
One of the better combat units in this book.
One of the better combat units in this book. Because he is 2 attacks at weapon skill 4.
With
no one
strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage.
Like, come on.
Yeah, you're not taking it for that.
Yeah, he heals a tank D3 wounds in the end of movement phase. In the command phase, he gives a vehicle 5-up invuln within 3 inches.
A 3-up invuln would be...
I would pay for that.
Yeah.
A 5-up invuln is still pretty good. I like it to make one tank a little more durable, but the thing is that if you take a lot of tanks, that doesn't help that much. I like healing tanks D3 wounds. But
how many points is he?
I believe he's 40, but I will
That's
confirm.
Probably worth it.
Yeah, 40 points is not a bad thing at all.
Does he do it to any vehicle?
Any vehicle.
So he can give it to a...
Super heavy.
Super heavy. That's pretty solid.
No, it's no problem at all.
Right.
Regimental Enginseer is 40 points.
That guy seems pretty good.
Perfectly good value. If you take enough tanks, he may not be needed. But if you have one tank that's more important than the others, giving it a 5-up invuln for 40 points and having some tangential healing is just good value, I think.
Yeah. I also think if you take a lot of tanks, his heal becomes pretty good.
Yeah, like wounded tanks are annoying, and you can always top tier a tank, but like healing a tank is also really nice.
Yeah, it's also if you've got one tank that's really hurt and one tank that's like kind of hurt, you heal the kind of hurt one above the halfway threshold. So now he's top tier, and you 1 CP the other guy, make him top tier, and then suddenly your opponent's like, oh, I didn't do anything.
Yeah. Regimental Enginseer is totally fine. I don't think he's like amazing, but he's just perfectly average choice.
Perfectly average is fine.
The Ministorum Priest. I don't really like this guy, but let's talk about him. The Regimental Preacher, my apologies. He basically is like a preacher, but he only knows one chant, and there's no like table of it. He just has a chant on his data sheet.
He rerolls hits, which is one of the most useless time to reroll hits because he is garbage.
Just himself, and his best thing that he can take is a Power Maul. It's his only combo open with AP. No one cares. Basically, all you take him for is that he's a random idiot character who, on a 3+ tells a core or infantry character within 6 inches to do something cool. And that is to either get +1 to charge and reroll hits in combat, or have a 6-up invuln and cannot be affected by malediction psychic powers.
Malediction is not the one you want to ignore.
So you can still get hit by witchfires, and unfortunately the reroll hits for a core
or infantry character.
Infantry character I don't care about. There are no infantry characters that I want reroll hits on badly enough to take Regimental Preacher. And then, unfortunately, because he's core, he doesn't affect Bulgryn.
Yeah, if you could give that to Bulgryn, I would consider it.
I would consider it. But he doesn't, so there's nothing else.
Immunity to maledictions. Maledictions suck, like across the board. What's the only malediction that's like decent is like Doom?
Well, I would think of like all the slowdown ones, but like Guard, you just have like more squads.
And this only applies to infantry.
Yeah, this guy costs too much. Like I don't even.
How many points does he? I mean,
like
whatever it is, it's too much.
Yeah,
he doesn't do anything.
Harker doesn't do anything. Harker
does he give a reroll 1s to hit, or it's usually
no. He gives reroll 1s pre-game to 1 Catachan jungle infantry squad.
Oh god, yeah, that's pretty.
And he carries an AP2 assault 3 heavy.
Honestly,
bolster.
I'm moving the preacher down to cannon fodder.
That's fine. And he can give an order, 1 regimental order specifically to Catachan jungle fighter keyword only. So he only orders Catachans, and he pre-game gives 1 Catachan jungle fighter's reroll 1s to hit, and all of that's garbage.
How many points is he?
It's gonna be too many. But
if you tell me 30, his gun is like most of that, and it's fine.
Gunnery Sergeant Harker is 40. He's not expensive, but he just doesn't do anything.
I'll put him up at flawed choice.
Great.
He has a gun and he's a character, but he is like banging his head on the door of cannon fodder. He's pretty bad.
You can't. Unfortunately, the Sentinels aren't Catachan, so you can't really. Oh, you could give Sentinels reroll hits in combat.
Because they are core.
Yeah, but like I don't care.
It's like 9 attacks.
If you buy them the chain sword, it's 3 attacks each.
Yeah, it's 9 attacks for a unit of 3. That's garbage.
Yeah, I don't care.
They hit on 4s and are what? Strength 6 AP2 or something?
Yeah. You can have them fix bayonets if you want, but like who cares? Harker does look awesome.
He does.
Yeah.
He is not okay with Straken. He is like not good.
Yeah, because Straken has Catachan, not Catachan Jungle Fighter, so he doesn't get 301s.
Yeah, he specifically buffs only
The Infantry Squad,
these guys.
who are in cannon fodder.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about Marbo.
He's the best Catachan, probably. Well, Straken's like not
Straken
terrible.
better, yeah.
Straken's not terrible. I like Sly. I actually think he's not bad.
Sly Marbo is 50 points, and does not do much. He doesn't do anything for the army. He's just a dude.
He does actually do something for the army. He makes the stratagem to do mortal wounds when he charge better for the entire army.
You love you some Marbo, right?
I like Marbo. He's cool.
I'm gonna let you read him, and I'm gonna go refill my water.
If I were to put guard on the table, it would have Sly Marbo in it.
Yeah.
Big period, because he's awesome. All right. Now, is he good? He's fine. He's fine. So, his weapon skill ballistic skill 2. This is like the strangest unit in the army. Weapon skill ballistic skill 2, strength 4, toughness 3, 5 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 7, 5 up save, moves 6 inches. His pistol is 12 inch range, strength 5, AP 2, damage 2. He ignores lookout sirs, wound rolls of 6 to a mortal wound. And then in combat, he always wounds on a... No, it's plus 2 strength, sorry. So strength 6, AP 2. And against vehicles, he is damage 1. Against non-vehicles, he's damage 2. Decent amount of attacks. Once per battle, at the end of your fight phase, you can remove this model from the battlefield. And the next movement phase, you can set him up anywhere 9 inches away. During deployment, you can set him up in ambush, which is the same thing. And then until the end of the turn he comes in, you can reroll failed charge rolls. He's like a combat character who is... Oh, Nick, he is not tougher than a rock squig. I'm sorry. Like, only one man, my main man, Mozrog, is tougher than a rock squig. But Marbo tries. And he does have a name that starts with an M, so that is, something. He's 50 points. For 50 points, he is legitimately very annoying to deal with. Because he just kind of, like, teleports around. Because, he'll come in, probably won't make the charge on the first turn, but if he's, like, behind a wall or something or safe from character protection, he's fine. Shoots a little, then shoots, charges, hits, and then goes back into reserves, comes back out somewhere else. And, he does some damage. He's fine. For 50 points, he's fine. What I actually really like him for is the Meltamine strat, which I will look up to relearn how it works, because it's been a second. Vicious Traps. In your opponent's charge phase, when an enemy unit finishes a charge move within engagement range of one or more Astra Militarum units from your army, they are wholly within an area terrain feature, which is very easy for him to be wholly within an area terrain feature because he is a character. And then... +1 if any of those units from your army have the Catachan or Veteran Guerrillas keyword. Okay. Veteran Guerrillas is pretty easy to get on Kasrkins because they can get another trait, and Veteran Guerrillas is like one of the better ones. If they have a Meltamine, which you can give Kasrkins, probably won't, but if they get their mortal wounds knocked down, I could strongly see it. And then +1 if your army includes Sly Marbo and he is on the battlefield. On a 2 through 5, they take D3. On a 6+, they take 2D3. Which... honestly, is a lot of mortal wounds to take in your charge phase. It really is. If you charge Sly Marbo, he is all 3 of those things. So if he's in terrain and you charge him, he rolls a die and adds 3 to it, and will always do D3. And then on a 3, so on a 1 or a 2, he'll do D3. On a 3+, he does 2D3 mortals when you charge him, and that is very annoying to deal with. So, and he can do that to anything in your army. He gives +1 to that roll too.
Yes.
So I actually
really,
really like that strat. Him being on the board means that you will not fail the check. You will always do the mortal wounds.
Yep.
And it means on a 5+ you take 2d3. If you charge him on a 3+, you take 2d3. And if you have any Catachan stuff, like if they charge... if you have him and you have Straken and if they charge Straken on a 4+, 2d3 mortal wounds. It's if you're in cover, but that's pretty easy to generate. I actually really like him.
Yeah.
He's 50 points. He bounces around. He gives you a strat that without him is really not good. Mm-hmm. And he's just good. I think he's just fine. Nick did ask, is he tougher than a rock squig? And unfortunately, the answer is no. Mozrog is tougher than a rock squig, and he's the only one. Here's how it works. Mozrog, rock squig, everyone else. And that's how it works.
All right. I'm going to trust you on that.
I think he is a strong choice, but like bottom of strong choice.
Yeah, I would say perfectly average, because while he's like He does a lot of cute things. For 50 points, I think I'm more likely to just take an extra infantry squad, is the problem.
I see him like approaching the game from like a slightly... For 50 points, your opponent has to worry about like 3 weird random things over the course of the game.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
He's definitely not bad. Unlike Scions.
Yeah. A little sad there.
Scions are like a Scion Command Squad. They're better than normal guardsmen in the exact same way you'd expect. Ballistic skill 3, hotshot lasgun, 4-up armor, and a deep strike. And then they can take special weapons. They can take 2 per 5, but they can only take 1 of each per 5. And so a 10-man can take...
That is so much worse than 2 special weapons.
Yeah, so you can take a 10-man to get 2 meltas or 2 plasmas or whatever.
So the reason, for anyone wondering at home, why it is so much worse to have 2 special weapons that are different weapons than 2 that are the same one, because I think this is something that, like, especially newer players might not know. It is much worse that you have to have them separate, because that means you can't be good at one thing. If you want to be good at killing vehicles, you only have 1 melta-gun, not 2. The other one is like a plasma gun, which is not as good at it. If you want to kill light infantry, you get 1 flamer and you get 1 plasma gun. So it's like you're not quite as good at killing light infantry as you might want to be. Yeah. No matter what you shoot at, you can't be good at a task.
Scions don't get regimental, so they don't get all the cool combos and tricks. They, unfortunately, they don't get like traits, so they're just like Kasrkins get 2 traits and Scions get 0. What Scions get is exploding 6 to hit.
Kasrkins get 3 traits, but Born Soldier's real good.
True. And it's just so sad. And the deep strike, which sounds like a great rule, but then you're like, oh wait a minute, you don't get orders when you deep strike. Dan Salmon says Ogryn Bodyguard are top tier. Ogryn Bodyguard are pretty darn good.
Yeah, they're pretty ludicrously tough.
Congratulations on the win, Mr. Salmons. I think Dan was I believe the first person to get a GT plus win with the new Guard Codex.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say not the last, though.
This seems unlikely.
Yeah,
seems
Guard
unlikely.
are real good.
Seems unlikely. But yeah, so Scions just make me so sad because they don't work in the way they want them to. The Warlord traits are amazing, and the Warlord traits are like possibly just as good as getting orders. Like, all of the Warlord traits, if they were in order, I'd be like, oh, that's a good order. But the problem is you have to buy a command squad and land within 6 inches and stay there, and that's just not like as good. And so I can't rate Scions, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think they're flawed.
I think flawed.
You could take a 5-man with a flamer plasma to deep strike around the table and do stuff, mission play, but like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just not excited by that at all.
Yeah, I think that's where they land. They're just super...
Yeah,
Hopefully they get a supplement or something like they got last time.
This army feels like it's begging for a campaign supplement, Army of Renown. Feels like an Army of Renown is what it's begging for.
Yeah, an Army of Renown for sure.
Unfortunately, GW's announced that they're not doing match play rules and campaigns anymore. And most of the time that they did that, I feel like we didn't need to, but this is one where we need to and we're not going to get it.
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
They're just so bland outside of that, and they just I don't know. There's just no reason to take them. Really, is where it's at.
Yeah.
All right. Your baby boy.
I like Rough Riders more than Jack does. They're
By a lot.
20 points per model, T4, 4-up, armor save, 2 wounds. They're kind of fragile. They hit quite respectably hard, especially in the context of guard.
Yes.
They move 12, so even though they don't move through, they do not move through walls, but they're still decently deliverable.
All right. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. They're core, they're regimental, they're not infantry, but they're platoon, so they get a lot of the buffs that you want. Because very few of the buffs are infantry. It's usually core or regimental, and they get all that. You can give them 4 rolls to hit and wound with Leontis. You can take them up to a 10-man. They hit ludicrously hard in combat.
All right, so counterpoint. They do hit ludicrously hard in combat. I'm not debating that
They're
one
not
second.
super deliverable.
They hit pretty hard. They are, unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to actually make that happen in a game of 40K. Because, sure. They are very fragile, right?
Yeah.
When you see them, they evaporate.
Absolutely. 100% true.
The comparison I used is Guardian jet bikes, because they're a unit where you're trying to see them, and then once you see them, buy. And Guardian jet bikes are tougher than Attilan Rough Riders. Yep. And so I think when you see Rough Riders, they're gone. Unlike Guardian jet bikes, they don't fly, so they don't get over terrain.
They're so different in the role. So the two...
They are. I'm not comparing the unit to unit. I'm just saying I know when I see a squad of Guardian jet bikes, they disappear, and Attilan Rough Riders are much less tough than that.
So the thing that I'd argue there is that Against Eldar, you're always trying to peek around corners and see them because the whole army is trying to hide. Against Guard, there's 6 Russ in line of sight barreling down at you, and then the Rough Riders are behind a wall. And are you really trying to get closer and peek around corners to shoot the Rough Riders?
You don't need to peek with much to kill the Rough Riders. You can peek with like legitimately bolters and kill them.
Yeah, you can kill some with bolters.
Yeah. The problem is if they were infantry, I would like them quite a bit.
Sure.
But the fact that they have to go on most terrain like back 4 inches, then they have to get their base around, and then so that's gonna be like another inch or two, and then back down.
Actually how that happens. You're never 4 inches deep in a ruin that you then have to back out of because you've got the trail guy.
Sure. So you've got like a little triangle ruin. You lose like a solid 6 inches just going around.
It's not an aggressive melee unit. It's a defensive melee unit.
I just don't think it's very good
It's
at that.
It's about as mobile as a 6-inch moving infantry.
Yeah, and if I'm doing that, I think I'd rather just have Bulgryn.
These hit way harder than Bulgryn.
Yeah, but these disappear in like
They're
a
also
hot second.
Cheaper than Bulgryn. 100 points flat gets you 5 of them. 3 Bulgryn barely even tickle in combat and cost more.
That's not...
3 Bulgryn do not hit that hard.
They don't hit that hard. These things legitimately disappear the moment anything looks at them.
Great.
20 points. I think they should have been like 15 or less because they hit hard, but they are just garbage whenever anything hits them.
Yeah. Again, they are a one-use combat unit that sits behind a wall with all your tanks in front of it, and as soon as someone gets too cute with a Demon Prince or 5 Possessed, you just go kill them without committing any shooting.
They, Charles S., they move 12, and they're cavalry.
You can give them move 14.
How? Move?
Yeah, just move.
Yeah, I'd rather have, like, fixed bayonets on them, but yeah.
Yeah, just move, and then tell them to fix bayonets after you get out of the transport.
I see. I just don't like
They're
them
not
at
making my
all.
lists, so I'm not trying to put them high on this tier list. But I think that you're looking at them like a melee unit in a melee army, when they're a melee unit that is literally designed to sit behind a wall and wait for someone to try and play melee with you. When in reality, it's like, oh, yeah, my 1,900 points of guard shooting is probably still enough here, but now I've got an answer if someone manages to get a tag in combat.
I just don't think that's realistically how it works. Like, I've played shooting armies with
I just don't want to lose to a Witch Cult unit. If a Witch Cult, 10 witches touch a Russ, and they successfully make me not fall back, I'm like, what I lose? Because you can't shoot into combat with the tanks.
You can shoot in the combat with the if you give them heavy flamers.
Yeah,
you just shoot the rest of the army.
Sure, yeah. Have heavy flamers on the Russ. There's other answers to this problem. That's why I think they're perfectly average. I'm not trying to get them higher than that, but they do hit really hard for their points. And they take buffs well.
I think they hit like a 25-point unit per model, or like a 23-point unit per model, and they die like a 10-point unit.
Sure, great, yeah.
And I just don't think against good opponents you're realistically going to be hitting valuable units with this.
You've been dodging my guard. It works out more than you'd think. They're below Bulgryn. I'm okay.
I would put them bottom of flawed choice or like middle of flawed choice.
They're better than a Scion Command Squad, no questions asked. They're better than Ogryn.
I don't know if they're better than Ogryn myself. Like, Ogryn shoot, and I trust that a lot more than going around terrain, and Ogryn are actually durable, whereas these things die, like, to a hot breeze. I understand you want to place them higher than that. I'm just saying this is roughly where I would put Rough Riders.
That's fine.
I think you would put Rough Riders, like, up here?
No.
Where would you put them?
I would put them right below the Deathcorp Krieg Squad.
Right there?
I would put them right there.
Can we say that?
I mean, as long as we move this, if we're doing that, then move the Scion Squad back. If we're ordering in, because I refuse to have them below the Scion Command Squad.
Fine.
Sure.
Fair?
It's fine, yeah. All right. Sentinels?
Sentinels.
I love me some Sentinels.
Yeah,
we got Scout and
Sentinels are
Armored. They're both really good. Would this list also be the best for Brood Brothers? Unfortunately, no, just because Brood Brothers are way different, and we don't know if they work or how they work or what units are allowed. So I would just say that we'd have to relook at that when Brood Brothers get a lengthy FAQ to be legal. Yeah. But let's talk about the Super Chat.
Yep, $2 Super Chat from Prometheus. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Catachans should have free Overwatch. They should have something, that is for sure.
If Catachans could Overwatch for free while in a terrain feature, I'd be totally okay with that. Just, you don't spend a CP? Sure,
just great. If you're in terrain, shoot, and then you can drop a bomb on their way
Random annoying flamer stuff, great.
Yeah.
Also 5 points less.
Joey Martinez says you should outflank your Rough Riders. That sounds like how they come in, fail a 9-inch charge, and die for free. To legitimately anything.
They don't have great charge buffs, unfortunately. No. Alas.
Yeah. But let's get on to something that we both agree on.
Yes, Sentinels are amazing. So we've got Scout Sentinels and Armored Sentinels.
Scout, Armored.
And I think Scout Sentinels are really good as a solo operative because it's, for 40 points, it's 7 wounds at T6 4-up armor. And that's not hyper durable, but that's also a good bucket of wounds for 40 points. That's like a little better than a land speeder, and it 4 deploys instead of flies. And that's something that I think Guard really like having.
Yeah, I agree.
You can take it in a squad of 3, but I think Scout Sentinels are totally fine being a 1-man.
Yeah, because they're not that durable, and if you want to be durable, spoiler alert, the next thing on the list,
is durable. But a Scout Sentinel is just, honestly, I think it's just really cheap and nice to have. And I kind of want a Scout Sentinel as here's my obligatory 4 deploy units that if someone has Leagues of Votann bikes, I don't auto-lose. I saw 2 different pictures from a GT this weekend that Guard was played at of Guard being rushed down by Scout Move bikes. I have a picture of 3 Genestealer Cult bike units tagging 8 Leman Russ on top of 1. And I'm like, wow, 1 Scout Sentinel and the game's over.
Yeah. Maybe 2, but like, what are we talking about?
Sure, maybe 2. Just making that not happen and then letting them Scout Move, then redeploying, great. Or Leagues of Votann bikes. Same problem. If you go second against Leagues of Votann bikes, again, Leagues of Votann bikes went first, Scout moved, then charged all the tanks and blocked them in their deployment zone while the Hecatons drew line of sight to the farthest left 2 and blew them up. And then they trapped them in combat, then the Hecatons drove up again and drew a beam weapon sideways through the deployment zone.
That just can't be allowed to happen.
Yeah. Take a Scout Sentinel, please. Scout Sentinels are just amazingly good for their points value. They're probably going to go in strong choice because not everyone's going to take them, but I think they're really, really good.
Yeah, I think they're amazing. Please, you know what else solves that problem?
Gaunt's Ghost?
Gaunt's Ghost.
You're just going to leave them there to die turn 1? Like, come on. What are you doing?
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Surely if I 4 deploy, my opponent won't be able to get within 18 inches to shoot them.
I play into Votann. I put them like strung out 9 inches from their deployment zone, and then I get the newest book. And then it's just like, oh yeah, we got ruined by Votann.
All right, the Scout Sentinels I think are up there in the strong choices. I think they're
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just somewhere in there.
Armored Sentinels, 5 points more. You lose the 4 deploy. You get a 3-up armor save.
You get extra wound?
You do not, but you get Armored Hull, a special rule, which is the same rule as Armored Tracks.
It's pretty good.
So +1. So it's all is Russ.
All is Russ.
All is Russ.
All is Russ. Okay.
Yeah. So +1 save and +1 save against damage 1 for 5 points, and you lose Scout. And so the way I see it is that Scout Sentinels are really good solo operatives, and Armored Sentinels are good in units.
Yeah, they're really durable against some things.
For 45 points, it's T6, 7 wounds, 3-up armor save. And that is approaching Pyrovore levels of insultingly hard to kill for the points. It is not hard to kill a Sentinel. But when you're done killing a Sentinel, you look at what you use, and you're like, wow, 45 points.
Yep. Yeah, that's
you're insulted.
That's the problem with as you were saying, with Pyrovores, was you're like, I killed these Pyrovores. I had to work really hard, but I got it. And you're like, 3 of them was 90. I'm like...
Yeah, it is insulting. Both Sentinels share these positive things. I think the Armored Sentinel benefits more, so I'm going to talk about it more here. Their Corps, their Regimental, their Squadron.
It's pretty good.
So they get access to every possible order and Corps, so they get literally every buff in this book.
Can they take aim?
Yeah.
It's a buff in the book, and
it's a buff in the book. They get it. Their Corps, they benefit from the finial. They benefit from the random rerolls by standing near characters. They get whatever orders you want. They are awesome. They're tough. I just like having a unit with 3 plasma cannons, 3 hunter killer missiles, and just tell them to randomly take aim. And it's like, oh wow, hit on 3s, reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound. Just good shots, +1 AP. Great. You ignore hit mods.
It's really good.
Yeah,
you ignore feel no pains and phase caps.
It's 150 points because I bought them all hunter killers. You can go 135. You want to be cheaper. And they are just really annoying to kill for the points, especially if you want to tell them to take cover. They're now a 3-up armor, get light cover, +1 save against damage 1. They're armored, so they get the stratagem for -1 damage. My personal favorite statistic of the Guard Codex is that if you feel like spending 2 CP on an Armored Sentinel, on average, 10 Emperor's Children Possessed will not kill it in combat. Mm-hmm. All 10.
Yep, because it's like the worst profile.
Yeah, that's absolutely me picking the worst possible profile. But yeah, like if you get a bunch of Strength 5 damage 2 combat into it, and you're like, -1 damage is damage 1, I get +1 save, you win me on 5s. It takes a hilarious amount of attacks to kill. And so taking a lot of them is really just fun. They are big and bulky, and that's a downside because they're easily wrapped, they're easily move blocked. But they are cheap.
They are cheap. I could honestly, if you're taking them in Unit 3 and you're planning to give them all buffs, I could see taking them with the Chainsword just so when they wrap you up, it's not free real estate.
Yeah, you could
like so that you 15 points and you just bip them a little. Yeah, I was going to get to that. Let me. But yeah, I was thinking when you get wrapped up in combat, you can take the Chainsword so that your opponent has to at least have some amount of respect.
But mainly I like that they're regimental, which means you can shoot into combat with them.
That's pretty good.
Because like if a Russ gets wrapped in combat, your Kasrkins cannot shoot into that combat. If your Sentinels get wrapped in combat, you can shoot into combat with them. And you can also tell the Sentinels to be the 12-inch Aura of No Deep Strike, or to be in cover, or to shoot better, or to move. They have a strat to 6-inch normal move after they shoot, which they can still charge after, which means that they can be really annoying obsec, because they can just be given obsec, then move really far, then shoot, then charge, then move, then charge, and just be obsec all the way downfield while annoying to kill.
It's a book super good. Yeah, it's a book of buffs, and they get every single buff, which nothing else gets. Mm-hmm. And so they're pretty good. They're pretty... Honestly, what are you thinking? You thinking up here?
I think that they should be tournament staples. I don't think they will be. Because they're going to be like Iron Striders, where everyone... For a while, everyone was like, oh yeah, Iron Striders are broken, and you could spam them. It's $65 to buy one. And right now, it's $200 to buy an Armored Sentinel.
Yes, they are platoon, so you can shoot in.
I'm sorry, I said regimental. They are platoon.
Yeah, they're platoon. I mean, they have a keywords list that reads like a
It's every relevant keyword in the book.
Menu.
They are like core, platoon, smoke, regimental, squadron, armored Sentinels. And Astra Militarum and Imperium and everything else. But every possibly relevant, they're everything but infantry.
Yep. All right, so we have been joined by the Leicester GT winner.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
how
three silent letters in there, which makes me think it's a French GT, but apparently it was in London. Probably
apparently.
In a pub underneath, like
the local pub. They take a lorry down to the local pub. Yeah. Anyway, congratulations, Vic. Congratulations on your win. You are now, and probably until LVO, the ITC rank #1. Congratulations. Yeah, well done. Mm-hmm. Well done. I'm coming for you too, but maybe we can have a drink first.
Yeah. I'm really excited to watch that battle. I am hanging out #3. Sad. But we'll see how much I can close the gap.
Yep. All right. Well, you may, I'd be okay if you took him out too. That's fine.
It's hopefully one of us gets the opportunity. I've never gotten to play Vic.
I've never gotten to play Vic. He's,
Yeah, but
did you come to LVO last year? Because I don't remember seeing it, but maybe.
I think he was at LVO last year, but maybe Vic could tell us. But Vic, so glad you're in the chat. Very well done this past weekend. Congratulations on your ranking.
Congrats. Picked up a new army, I believe.
I think he was Thousand Sons.
He was Thousand Sons Demons. I actually talked about it briefly on the Thousand Sons clinic we did yesterday.
Yep. God, I'd love to hear you guys try
Worcestershire.
I'm gonna just go for full bat on this. Worcestershire.
Yeah, it's definitely Worcestershire.
That's American enough for you.
Definitely Worcestershire, anyways, but I know Worcester is like a weird town somewhere up there.
I think Armored Sentinels are amazing and should be tournament staples. I don't think they will be because at the end of the day, you could just always take points in Russ and call it good. Spoiler alert on where Russ are going to end up. But I think they're awesome.
Adam Lane just coming in with no faith.
Yeah, Nassim will blow up all the Americans and then Vic will win. Sad implications for Nassim that Vic is going to backstab him after he's done all the dirty work.
Are you saying that Vic requires Nassim to be
Worcester?
Worcester.
All right. Shall we finish off the fast attacks?
Yeah, let's do it. Hellhounds. They are ludicrously worse than the two Sentinels. Sad.
They're still not even bad.
They have 3 profiles.
I like the Meltacan.
I do. The Meltacan has big number, and big number make me very happy.
So turret weapons are awesome on them because although less so on the flamer, because the flamer could always shoot.
It is his first LVO.
There we go. Then he wasn't.
I thought so because I only remember seeing some of the UK
that would
crew.
Explain why I haven't met Vic yet.
Worcester. I knew there was somewhere that was
just
spelled something wild and then Worcester.
14 letters in the name, and you pronounce 2 of them. Worcester.
Because we have Worcestershire sauce, which is spelled that way, but whatever.
Terrible.
All right, Vic. We'll see you at LVO.
See you there.
That is probably not. That is probably not very good for a British audience, but whatever.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't even know if I was on camera. Anyways, chem cannons, inferno cannons, and melta cannons. Let's get back to this.
Yep.
The chem cannon is a really good flamer. It's D3 plus 3 at AP3, poison, damage 2. I just don't really need to melt like infantry in front of me.
In the open,
it's good at killing
yeah.
monsters, but it's too short ranged, so I don't really care.
It's like fine at killing monsters. It's not even amazing at it.
Yeah, it's not even amazing at it. It would be, no, it's really not. The Inferno Cannon is a way to melt infantry in front of me, and that also feels like not what I actually care about.
No.
The Melta Cannon, I think, is actually interesting because you could take a Multi-Melta and a Melta Cannon, and at that point, you're cooking.
That's Melta.
So it's D3 shots at 9/4 D6 plus 2, and if you're in half range, it's D6 plus 4, and it's a turret weapon.
It's the only one that makes use of the turret weapon, too. Yeah, I actually met Dave Gaylord at LVO last year. That was very good to see him.
So, like, I still don't think the Hellhound's particularly interesting.
No, the Melta Cannon is like a decent tank destroyer role.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but only D3 shots means it's a little unreliable still, because there's no inherent rerolls here.
You also don't get the damage bonus unless you're within 12, at which point you are committing the tank.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of want this to pick away at tanks from 24 inches, and then it's D6 plus 2, and then D6. If you get within 12.
Good. If you get within 12, you're melting someone, though.
Yes. Is there any way to... I mean, the turret hits on 3s, which is super dope.
Yeah, and then the multi-melt hits on 4s, and there's no rerolls, and that's basically what it is.
Yikes.
And that's totally fine, but it's not exciting.
No, it's fine. I think it's perfectly average.
Yep. I'm totally okay with that. It's worse than Rough Riders.
Fine. We're just going to have this conversation a bunch otherwise. I want Straken ahead of him because I actually respect
totally
Straken.
Bassi?
Basilisk.
We're in the heavies.
Yes, we are in the heavies. We're in the end game now.
There's so many heavies.
There are a lot of heavies.
So again, we're assuming artillery nerf is in effect here, and indirect isn't just crazy, by the way. Just saying it now again so that you don't get the question.
Just in case anyone's wondering, if the artillery immunity to the indirect nerf is not carried forward, all of the indirect in this army goes
just
up
like
the chart.
2 tiers up, I think.
And the tanks go up 1, our indirect goes up 2 each. And then indirect spam armies become a thing that can just happen. And there are some people
who will do that.
There are some people who are just built like that, where they will just take an army that is 100% indirect. I've seen it.
You've done it.
I have not done it. I have seen it. And you have played into it. I'm not going to name names, but there are people who would do it.
Yeah.
And it will just table you if you're not lucky.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
So the Basilisk is good indirect, but I think that all of the indirect pieces here aren't really worth taking. All of like the tanks.
No, the indirect that can take aim.
That's worth taking. But here is Ballistic Skill 5, and as soon as you find yourself, if it's indirect, and as soon as you find a hit modifier, it hits on 6s.
Yep.
And then you don't have to roll the wounded. That's super easy. But I'm just not particularly excited about that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get rerolls. You can give it a tank order for real ones to hit, sure. Like they get tank orders, that's fine, but it's just not enough volume for me to accept hit bad.
Yeah, hitting on 6s is unacceptable. It's what, D6 plus 3 shots?
Yeah.
Like the shots are better. It's
sure, but as
strength
soon as
10
it hits on
AP3.
6s, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it's so I think it's a flawed choice, and you're just never gonna see it.
Yep. Again,
Yep.
if it gets so that's a fair point, Prometheus. Indirect nerf, anyone got a clarification? I've been out of 40k for a while. Currently, in the balance patch, there is a rider. Anything that shoots out of line of sight, if you do not have line of sight to your target, you are -1 ballistic skill, and your opponent gets +1 to their armor save.
Hilarious.
Which stacks with cover and stacks with any negative to hit because it's -1 ballistic skill.
And, yeah.
But I mean, like, if they have a -1 to hit mod, you're -2 to hit because your ballistic skill went down, and then you take the -1. Mm-hmm. And if they have cover, and they just get +2 to their save. So indirect is just not amazing right now, which is totally fine. It's kind of cancer for the game, but it does mean that the Basilisk is sad. Guard currently have an immunity to this nerf, but we expect that they will lose that when this book comes out for wide release. If they ignore the indirect nerf, boom, up here. somewhere. It's 2 tiers higher. Boom. That's easy.
There we go.
Yep.
All right. Death Strikes. Death Strikes are super, super fun.
They're cute.
And they are better than a Basilisk. I think... I would much rather take the Death Strike than a Basilisk.
So people have kind of been losing their minds about the Death Strike because they have big number syndrome.
Yep, and I think having one pointed at the ruin that the other army is hiding behind would be really fun for me.
It would be cute. That would be very cute.
And then they move, and then I'm like, oh, I guess the Death Strike's not firing there. I'm going to move it to the next building that you move to. And I'm just going to keep shooting them as they run back and forth between ruins trying to hide.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're not...
They're not
Death
good.
Strike's not good.
So
I would put it at the top of flawed.
Yeah, sure. I could put it there.
Sure.
I think it's worse than the regimental attaches.
I mean, who cares?
Who cares? So here's the thing, right? People have a tendency to have something I like to call big number syndrome.
Yep.
Like the railgun on the hammerhead. If you see something that has one really big number, people lose their minds. And this can potentially do 16 mortal wounds.
Yeah, which is like a Kasrkin squad.
Sure. People don't tend to realize how often that's going to happen. Or maybe one big number. So the hammerhead is not necessarily better than a Leman Russ executioner because it has one big number, but that's it. If it doesn't hit or doesn't wound or passes the save somehow, there's some armies that can get a save against it, then you do 0 damage as opposed to the big number, whereas something with more shots, etc. But the Death Strike can potentially do a lot of mortal wounds if your opponent stands still.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't stand still.
And telling them not to stand still does feel good sometimes.
It does. I think probably the spread fire shot is probably the best one because it's got a larger area
The fact
hit.
that you get to choose the beginning of the game is really nice.
It is very, very cute. But I think people look at the Godspear missile and say, oh my god, that's insane. And then they don't realize that that's never happening in real life. Yeah. If it was 3.5 inches, I actually would like it. Because then you can cover an objective completely.
But you can't.
But you can't cover an objective completely because...
But often, though, you could cover the part that's behind a wall.
True.
Which is nice. So,
yes.
The Death Strike's really cool. I don't think it's...
It's like the funnest unit in here after Sly Marbo and Gaunt's Ghost, though.
Yeah. Let's hit the Hydra.
Hydra, very good.
Hydra's very good. It's awesome anti-air whenever you need that because it's 8 shots at 722. Double hit rolls against flyers, so it goes to 16 hit rolls. It's +1 hit against aircraft and a turret weapon, which means it's +1 to hit always and +2 to hit against aircraft.
Which cancels out the aircraft's inherent -1.
Yep, which they almost always pack. And it's that's about it. And it can 1 CP intercept when you bring in an aircraft from reserves.
Yep, and you fire 16 shots against aircraft.
And that's a great way to mess up top lines.
Yeah, I think in a battalion you are not going to see it, and I think in a brigade you probably should take it.
Yeah, I think it's a strong choice that is just far down on the heavy support tier.
Yeah, because it's competing for heavy support tier with the Russ, the Dorn, the
field batteries,
and the
heavy weapon teams, the Wyvern, the Manticore, and it wins some of those competitions, but doesn't win all of them.
No.
So I think it's the bottom of strong choice personally, where I think it's really good. I like it as an anti-air choice. There's just so many good heavy support slots, and it's not like normal guns don't work against anti-air.
I think as a tank, it's I think it's pretty good. It competes hard for slots.
Pretty good, yeah.
Manticore.
Mm-hmm. Manticore is it's way too close to a Basilisk now. It's a Basilisk that can't shoot on turn 5 because it only has 4 shots instead of 5.
Yeah.
And it's 9-2-3 instead of 10-3-2.
Which is
and its range is
sometimes
the same.
Worse, sometimes better.
I think the AP2 is a big problem because it's taking the indirect nerf and then it's they just get too many.
Honestly, the way I want to think of these indirect pieces is that they are direct fire pieces.
Yeah.
And
that's just really long range. And then I'd rather
I think if you do shoot it direct fire, I think this is actually true. I think that the Basilisk is better than the Death Strike. Sure. If you just shoot direct fire.
Yeah, sure. But then it's oh my god, I could have had a Russ.
Sure, they're both down here, and spoiler, a Russ will not be. I think Hydra is good for the slot because you only need one, and it does good anti-air stuff, which is cute. I think the Manticore is a direct fire piece.
Yeah, sure.
And if you really want to, you can indirect fire, but then you're orcs, and is that where we want to be?
No. Yeah, they're all in that same spot for me.
Yeah,
I'm not passionate about them.
Let's talk about something that you are passionate about. Peaches the Destroyer.
Peaches the Destroyer.
Their $5 super chat. The Death Strike would be so much better if it would just fire drunk space wolves with axes at people, just saying possible god tier weapon then.
Space Wolves.
Space wolves.
You're right, Peaches. That would be scarier for everyone involved, including the man loading the cannon.
Imagine if they just, out of the Death Strike, one of the options was just a Bulgryn squad.
Just one Bulgryn.
Just one Bulgryn.
One Bulgryn in... Yeah. God. Let's talk about the Rogal Dorn.
Let's talk about the Dorn.
The Dorn's the big new kid on the block who is just so cool looking.
Ludicrously cheap for its stat line.
I think it's actually fairly costed.
$250?
Yeah.
I mean, you pay for upgrades on top of that, but like for its toughness 9, 17 wounds, 2 up armor save,
yeah,
that is very cheap.
It's definitely not on the expensive side. But like it could go up like 20, 30 points, but I don't think it needs more.
I don't think it necessarily...
The thing is, like, the problem is I don't think it gets taken. Because
Russ are spammable.
Yeah. So the Dorn is awesome, and it has the insanely good Oppressor Cannon, which tells you what it does on the tin.
It oppresses people.
It oppresses you.
It oppresses the Twin Battle Cannon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The Twin Battle Cannon is nowhere to be seen right now.
Yeah, no.
It just shouldn't be.
The Oppressor Cannon is awesome. It's 10, -3, 4 damage, range, yes, d6 plus 3 shots. It's just so freaking strong.
Yeah, the Oppressor Cannon has like 1 fewer shot on average than the Twin Battle Cannon, like 0.5, actually 0.5 shots less. And it comes with an autocannon and it's +2 strength and an extra point of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not close. The Dorn is awesome. It's tough. It shoots hard. You can give it a bunch of different random weapons on it, like it's a Primaris tank and it's just spouting heavy stubbers everywhere. And I am very okay with all of that. You can make it ignore cover with the tank case. It's a great thing to benefit from Leontis to get the one thing that rerolls hits because it has just more shots than any other tank. With that said, it is when you start kitting out a Rogal Dorn to ignore cover, you get dangerously close to 2 Leman Russ in cost.
Yeah, what I kind of want in a tank spam list is to take 1 Dorn and then a bunch of Russ.
I'm okay with that.
Because you put all your buffs into the 1 Dorn.
Yeah.
So when you need to hammer something really hard, guess what? Bye-bye. And you also have something that can go to places where the Russes would get shot if they go to.
I am very okay with the idea of like... Because like right now I'm thinking like 5 or 6 Russ. I'd be down for like 1 Commander, 3 Russ, and a Dorn. Also great.
Yeah, it sounds really, really strong. I think Dorns are great. I think they're easily strong choice.
Yeah.
Like top of strong choice.
They're definitely below Tank Commander and Scout Sentinels to me. But like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yep. Dorn are really good. I just think that the thing we're about to discuss next is better.
They're also good, by the way, at taking tank aces. So like if you don't take a tank commander, you take Leontis and you take 1 of these and you take like 5 of these, then you put your upgrades on the Dorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the Leman Russ, let's answer a question from Shackleton Mangram.
Oh god.
Shackleton Mangram has a super chat for us, and it looks like it's for Jack. I'm kind of getting an itch to see Spiricus Maximus again. If we're talking about Jack's WTC list, what are some really tight matchups for Custodes? That hurts a little bit. I think both of us a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Because Jack's WTC list had 2 Sunshark bombers, some Crisis suits.
All right, Shackleton Mangram, I love you again.
Yeah. But John's WTC list did have Spiricus Maximus in it.
That Jack wrote.
Most of.
All of.
I changed some of the
You
warlord
changed
traits.
1 line.
I changed a warlord trait.
You changed a warlord trait.
And I took it. I played the games.
Sure.
My WTC list.
I didn't say I took it. I just said I wrote it.
Yeah, so what are some really tight matches for Custodes? I think, Jack, that you're actually going to be playing Custodes on stream relatively soon in the Worm.
Am I?
In the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Not this week, but what are some really tight matchups for Custodes?
Like some really like close ones. Well, if you're looking to make people play Crusade, and if you are,
Oh geez, no.
I hate
do
you.
not
again.
do not even mention Crusade.
Well, I was going to say Richard played Crusade in the narrative and really enjoyed it. He said he would be down to do one, and I think you could probably get Nick on board as the Uki there, as the other guy.
Yep.
And so, I think you could do that.
So what does that have to do with tight matchups for Custodes?
Oh, nothing.
Okay.
I'm just giving him an option if he wants to take it.
Sure.
But yes, for tight matchups for Custodes, I don't know. Anything that Nick plays is probably going to be an exercise in like stalling Custodes out long enough for him to score a bunch of points. Into heavy shooting armies, Custodes can have a little bit of a problem because you just get shot. Although I think with the advent of Guard, you have to move away from Dreadnoughts at this point. So fast shooting is still pretty.
But he wants to see
exciting.
Spiricus Maximus.
He wants to see Spiricus Maximus. I do think you would see Spiricus Maximus on that board. I think a shield captain on Dawn Eagle, very good in a fast shooting list because they just add some like surgical punch. It's a very good character.
There we go. All right. Well, let's
move on to probably the defining part of most lists.
Yeah. Russ.
Let's talk about it.
So they're definitely somewhere in tournament staples.
Somewhere up there.
Because I think every list wants to have some amount of Russ.
I gave the disclaimer a million times about how I'm not ranking them in the tiers, and then I started ranking them in the tiers.
I know.
Yeah.
I watched it happen.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So Leman Russ are just really efficiently pointed, and the new turret weapons rules are awesome. We haven't actually said what it is, but we've it's been out for a month, so people know.
Yeah.
Turret weapons.
Turret weapons. They give +1 to hit, and you can shoot out of combat that you're in.
Yep. Great. Awesome.
Pretty strong. Pretty good.
That's just really good on Russ because now the big Russ guns hit on 3s, and the guns are better. They no longer double fire when they move half, but now they're better. So that's about the same if you happen to be moving 5 inches, and is way better as soon as you want to move more than that.
Yeah, because it's for a lot of the weapons, they went from firing twice at D6 shots to being D6 plus 3.
Yeah.
And that is 0.5 shots less.
Yeah, so they're heavy 9 now instead, which is really convenient.
Yeah, you double the number of models for blast, and then you shoot.
No, I was just saying that I roll 6s.
That too.
Our last YouTube game, I did roll really good blast, and Nick is pretty fun. So I'm a big fan of the old Leman Russ.
Their damage output has stayed very similar to the tank commander was before, because they hit on 3s. They move faster now and shoot. Instead of them moving 5 to shoot twice or moving 10 to basically not shoot at all, now they move 10 and shoot as hard as they did before, functionally.
Or get ordered to move farther and then shoot anyway, because they can advance and shoot with no penalty. Orders are better than before. The tank is better than before. They hit hard. They're not that expensive. They're pretty spammable because it's the only squadron left out of the vehicles. Russ are amazing, and I think every list is going to incorporate Russ to some extent. Because I've never met a guard player who's I just don't really like Leman Russ.
Yeah, every guard
player has Leman Russ. You find a Space Marine player who doesn't like Predators. You find a Space Marine player that doesn't like Vanguard veterans, and they take a list without them. I've never met a guard player that was just I don't know, man. I like guard, I just don't like tanks.
Yeah, they are very cheap.
Yeah,
and they're very easy to kit out in a way that. They're also toughness 8 with a 2-up and 13 wounds. And if you take that in multiples, that gets very annoying to deal with.
Even without armor contempt, that is too hard to kill.
Yeah, if you just have legitimately lists could come around that are just 10 of them. I'm not exaggerating.
We saw 11 Russ go 5-1, I believe, at a tournament this past weekend.
Yep. How do you kill 11 of these things? Yeah. They're toughness 8 with 13 wounds and a 2-up. How do you kill 11? And it's
1 CP to shoot the turret weapon on death.
And it's 1 CP. You had to shoot on death on you hit on 4s at that point?
Yeah, because your ballistic skill 5 plus 1 hit.
Yeah, so you shoot on death for 1 CP anytime one of them dies, and you put them at top bracket. They're super spammable. And you also can give them 3 heavy flamers and armored tracks.
Yeah. Joshua Gilbert is saying that a tank ace order for the order is better than tank commander because it can then receive its own order. And also Basilisks and Manticores are cannon fodder. Yeah, Basilisks and Manticores are not great. And by the way, Joshua, thank you so much for the super chat. Your support literally means everything to us because that is how we do this.
Yep. I think the Basilisk and Manticores still have some utility as direct fire weapons. They're just not great.
Yeah,
and so they're down.
I think they're better than Servitors. Yeah. Not a high bar here. They're pretty bad.
They're better than Catachans.
They're better than Harker, although I think Harker's too high. I think he's cannon fodder.
Yeah, let's
just be real here.
He needs to be with his boys.
Absolutely. That's where he belongs. But yeah, Leman Russ are just so efficient, and they're so much better than before, and tank orders are so much better than before. Good. Take them in every list.
It's really...
That is a good catch, though, on the tank ace being better than just buying a commander. The only thing you really lose is you wouldn't get a character, but so you can't take the relic gatekeeper.
Oh, it's an ace to just.
There's an ace to make a
become
tank into a tank ace. I think the problem is that you can't buy it on Russ. You can only buy it on Dorn or Super Heavy.
You can buy all of them on everything.
No,
right?
no. I'll double check. So we're looking it up for you, Joshua. But I'm pretty sure that this one calls it out because otherwise you would have an ability to make a Leman Russ into a tank commander. Yeah, Vaunted Praetorian is Super Heavy or Rogal Dorn only. The model gains officer and knows mechanized orders.
Oh,
so you can't have a Leman Russ take that. Otherwise, yes, I would legitimately pay 5 points for my tank commander to be able to receive his own orders.
Yeah.
However,
you can also give them the tank ace.
I'd be down to put this on a Dorn.
I think the Dorn wants to ignore cover or get a trait for +1 to hit.
It does want to ignore cover.
Leman Russes are very spammable. I think they need to go up a bit in points because otherwise you're going to start staring down armies of the 10 of them.
Yes.
And I'm not exaggerating. Mm-hmm. Even like 8 or 6 or something is a lot to deal with.
Like on the more conservative side of Russ spam, where I'm like, 5 or 6 is good.
I usually do end up on the more conservative end of the spam.
And
like
yet,
as a player.
and the more conservative side of the spam
is like
5 or
6.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's spam by Hiveguard standards.
But there are people who just won't do that and will take a more linear list and will take like 8 or 9 or 10 or even 11 as we saw.
Crazy.
And at that point, how do you deal with that? They're too tough in multiples.
Yeah, you cannot deal with that with conventional weapons. Like I cannot think of an army that is like, yep, I will line up my guns and play against Leman Russ spam and like have fun.
Yeah. So that's something that worries me. I think they need to go up in points.
Yeah.
Executioners are the best one.
100%.
Pretty uncontested. If you take Gatekeeper, you take a battle cannon, but whatever, you replace the battle cannon, so we're not even talking about the battle
Joshua took 7 in COC and got 3rd. Very well done, Joshua. It's a really
CCC,
great finish.
it looks like.
CCC. I cannot tell what that stands for, but I believe you. I'm waiting for Gunhair to put up their thing so I can review the weekend. Let's go through the artillery now.
All right.
Field Ordnance Battery?
Field Ordnance Battery
is
pretty
so
good.
Close to being great.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a good indirect gun. It has 2 other options that I do not care about in the slightest because I would only take the indirect gun because it's very fragile. It's T4 4-up save, and it's like you took several Rough Riders and stapled them together, but they cost more.
They don't have to run around terrain in order to get to you.
That's true. So their defense is worse than Rough Riders, which means you really want to take the indirect, not the direct part of this.
Oh, yes, for sure. Sorry. I just forget that they can take things that aren't.
Exactly. And yeah, you can just ignore the direct fire part of this. But the indirect, they are platoons. They love regimental orders, but they're not coarse. They don't get rerolls or the finial. And in my mind, that makes them merely okay, not great.
All right. So we've got some comments here. Dominic Kidwell has a $5 super chat. In a combined arms list, how much infantry squad is too few infantry squad? Also, 6 is a good number of Russ.
Too few infantry squads for me is 3. 3 is the battalion minimum, and you're going to start the list with 3. And I think by the time you are done playing with Guard, you're going to want more than 3 squads. 4 has been the smallest number I've been happy with.
Yeah. I feel like 6 should be like the most spammed. Like,
yeah,
I feel like
6
spam
should be the upper end of Russ spam.
Yeah, it shouldn't be 11. Like, Tyrannosaurus Rex, I appreciate you showing up in a lot of our chats and of our videos, and then just talking about dinosaurs. I appreciate you.
I respect it.
I do.
We should get some dinosaur, like a dinosaur bone table. You know, like go to an aquarium, like store, pet store, get the aquarium terrain that's like dinosaur bones, and just turn that into a 40K table. Like old local gaming stores did back in 5th edition.
Yep. Genki, where do you get all these tournament lists? Best place to find them would be go to Reddit. Go to competitive 40K subreddit. Every week there is a guy. He has an acronym name. It's like JCP something.
I forget the name,
with
but he's
some
awesome.
Numbers after it. He's amazing. Unfortunately, he has a name that's hard to remember.
Go to Meta Monday. It's pinned.
Go to Meta Monday. It's pinned every week. The guy does an amazing breakdown of tournaments, and then you can find those tournaments and look at the
Best
lists.
Coast pairings is where you want to find them.
Yep, you find the lists in Best Coast Pairings after you look up the events in that. Ren, for all those who love to claim GW makes new units, make them absurdly OP to sell models, welcome to Guard. Honestly, I don't think they meant to do that. I think they meant to make the Rogal Dorn nuts, and then instead they made Russes too spammable.
Yep.
I don't think they meant to. I think they meant to make Rogal Dorns insane. And they're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
I'll definitely take one.
Yeah.
Like when we get that model, I'm definitely putting it on the table.
Oh, I want to own one. Like, I might not own any other Guard anymore. I'm clean. But
I saw your Bulgryn.
yeah, okay. We don't talk about that. Was a while. That's a different time.
Different time when you took all that indirect.
We don't. I didn't.
All right, maybe Peaches the Destroyer.
Peaches the Destroyer, $5 super chat. Planning on hitting Cherokee in February with my wolves. Should I expect to see a ton of guard infantry or tank armies? Do you think?
I think you should plan on seeing some. I think it's going to be more tank spam than infantry spam. I think combined arms is the best, though. I don't know how much we'll see, but let's be honest. There's a lot of people who own guard.
Yes.
Because guard and the model line have been around forever. The Russ has not changed in my time in the hobby, which is 14 years. They did release a new Russ kit, which was the old one with an upgrade sprue, which means that if they have the old Russ, no one cares.
Yes.
So I think, yes, I think you should expect to see a pretty good amount of Russ armies, just because a lot of people own them. And when something is good and easily accessible, you see it everywhere.
Yeah. I think you also need to prepare more for tanks than you do for infantry, because infantry die kind of quick to anything.
Correct.
Whereas if you don't come correct for tanks, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Bam Jitsu, $5 super chat. John looks like he's auditioning to be the next Wolverine. Good work, homies. See you at LVO. Absolutely.
Thank you. Always good to see you, Bam Jitsu. I'm pretty sure that's Brian. So yeah, indeed. I don't actually know what to say about the Wolverine thing. But at least I'm taller than You
mean Boswell?
Bam Jitsu?
I don't think that's Brian Boswell.
Oh no, I have no idea. I was not talking about that, Brian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
That's Boz from GW.
Yeah. That's not.
Yeah.
Anyways, yes, hair is long, but I'm taller than Wolverine, and I'm not Canadian. That's important to me. Bub. All right, let's roll with it and finish out the field artillery. I think they're strong. I think they're perfectly average. Like they're not bad. The indirect is good. The rest of it's mediocre.
I think they're right about there.
Sure, yeah, in between the infantry squads, and, yeah, it's fine. But let's talk about heavy weapon teams, because heavy weapon teams are cheap. And again, like a field ordnance battery, you can take so many different direct fire weapons on a guardsman platform, and you are not doing to do that.
Brian Bam Bam Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. And then you don't want to take direct fire on a heavy weapon team because it's two guardsmen stapled together. And that's expensive to be like a guy that walks out, shoots a las cannon, and then dies immediately because it's two guardsmen stapled together. But with mortars, they are pretty darn efficient. It's just good indirect, and they're coarse. Even when they take the penalty, you give them take aim, and it's like, oh, ballistic skill 5 +1 to hit, and you're like, but forests, but the finial tells me to ignore hit mods. And all of a sudden, the mortars are actually back to being good indirect.
Yep, they are back to hitting on 4. They went from strength 4 to 5. And then you can make them go from strength 5 to 6 with Creed. Yeah. And then they get AP 1, and all of a sudden they're up here.
Yeah, current book, they ballistic skill 4 and do take hit modifiers, and they reroll 1s to hit with an order. Now, new book, they are ballistic skill, they're hitting on 4s, and they don't take modifiers, and they reroll 1s to hit, and they're +1 strength, +1 AP, but give +1 saves. That about cancels out into non-armor contempt. But then they reroll 1s to wound. So you get +1 strength, reroll 1s to wound, basically baked into non-armor of contempt. And then also you get the +1 strength from Creed. So sometimes +2 strength. So for about the same points cost as it was before, those are significant buffs. The ignoring hit mods is especially important. And also they're surrounded by a better army now.
Yeah, they're real strong.
And they're real good. I'm totally okay with them in tournament staples. Again, you're going to run at a point where there are too many heavy support choices that you want compared to the number of slots you have, but I am trying to make room personally for those in my list.
I feel like a brigade with 3 of these and then 6 Russes is just like
what I want, yeah.
All 5 of the slots.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hydra. This sucks for you, but...
Yep, that's about how it ends up.
I could see 6 mortars, 1 Hydra, 6 Russes being premium.
There's just so many good options. Next up, we've got the Wyvern. The Wyvern makes me sad because the Wyvern didn't get a stat buff really the way that the other things did. So we got AP1 in his AP dash before, but now it takes an indirect nerf, so AP1 basically just cancels out. And it went from strength 4 reroll wounds to strength 5. And it lost Squadron, which I didn't really care about. But like the Wyvern, then it gets a ballistic skill worse. And it's like, the Wyvern is now just much worse than it was in the old book.
Yeah, strength 4 reroll wounds is so much worse than strength 5. It goes from AP 0 to AP 1, but then it takes the indirect nerf. It's just not good.
Drop it with the direct. I think it's honestly the worst of the indirect platforms because it can't really default to being a good direct fire weapon.
Yeah, Wyverns haven't been good since blast templates became not a thing.
I liked having one in the old book. but like they're not worth it at all.
They used to be bananas.
Yeah.
They are just cannon fodder now?
Who cares? The difference
fair.
between bottom of flawed and top of cannon fodder means nothing to me.
I think Nork comes up here, and then these guys are down here, and it's like, eh.
Sure.
I'm not sad about indirect weapons being bad. Please, they're just not good for the game of 40k.
Absolutely. So let's talk the Chimera. The Chimera is a wonderful transport. It's 85 base. It's 11 wounds now. Went up a wound. You can issue orders from inside it. You can hold 12 guys, which means you can hold a 10-man squad and some characters. It has las guns built in now that you don't have to have guys inside to shoot. So it shoots respectably for a transport. It's respectably tough for a transport. It's a rhino with an extra wound that can buy track cards, which is all his Russ. And they do cool transport shenanigans with officers inside. I think the Chimera is awesome. I think I would take it as a strong choice.
Okay. I could see that.
Yeah. I think it's ahead of the Hydra, for example.
Right there.
Yeah, I've taken a Chimera in every list I've written so far. I've liked it in every list I've played so far. But nothing else to say about it. A Chimera is not flashy, just you've got good officer tricks because you can issue orders from inside it, because you can do that with Chimeras, and then you can get the officer out and issue more orders because you just disembarked in the movement phase.
Yeah.
So it's a way to double up on an officer, and that bit of synergy is really nice, and it's just a tough transport. Next up, you've got the Taurox. The Taurox for 70 points is cheaper than a Chimera. It's 1 less wound, 1 less toughness, plus 2 move, and has 2 autocannons. So it shoots maybe a little harder, but not with any turret weapons, so maybe about the same. What I'm really looking at here is that the Taurox is faster and cheap. And if you just want a transport to hold dudes, and you've got a lot of transports, Taurox is by far the most spammable. 70 points for 10 wounds, 3 up armor save. Comes with all his rust built in.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's built in. They already have armor tracks. You don't have to pay for them. So it's 70 points with armor tracks.
Yeah, because they do have those doofus-looking tracks.
They have the doofus-looking tracks, and they're well armored. And that's it. Like, it's just a 70-point transport that holds 10 guardsmen and moves 14 inches. And that is...
Ooh, 14?
14.
That's powerful.
That is good value. It's a vehicle, so if you really wanted to, you could order it to move 16 inches and then get dudes out of it.
Is the disembark do orders thing only for Chimeras?
Nope, it's for any transport. But you can only issue orders out of a Chimera, not a Taurox.
I see.
So the Taurox is 15 points cheaper and comes with armor tracks. So it's effectively 20 points cheaper because you're going to buy armor tracks for the Chimera. It's plus 2 move, minus 1 toughness, minus 1 move. It has 2 autocannons instead of heavy bolt or multi-laser 6 las guns. No turret weapon. And it doesn't get the weird command phase stuff, and it doesn't hold the extra slots. It holds 10 instead of 12.
All right, so it's better at transporting, and that's about it.
There's no jank to the Taurox. It is just, this is an efficient data sheet transport.
So where'd you put it? Strong choice?
Strong choice right below the Chimera. Like, to me, they're neck and neck, but the Chimera has a little more jank, even though it costs more.
What about a Taurox Prime?
So Taurox Prime is a Taurox that is ballistic skill 3 and doesn't actually have much better weapons and costs way more and can only be taken with Scions.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Transports 10 Militarum Tempestus Infantry Officio Perfectus or Militarum Auxilia.
Yep. So it's ballistic skill 3, but none of its weapons that are on a rotating turret or turret weapons.
Oh, it also only holds Auxilia that have been attached to units, so it only holds the bodyguards.
Correct. It's genuinely bad, and you can only take it for having Tempestus Scions infantry into detachment. Yep. And its output is much worse than it was before, and it costs a lot more than the Taurox.
It literally has a turret weapon, and yet it does not have the turret weapon roll.
Yeah, I like this thing is, again, a Taurox is 70, a Taurox Prime is 105. And it's the same defense, and it's ballistic skill 3, and it has slightly better guns.
Like how its battle cannon is D6 shot, strength 7, AP 1, damage 2. Like that is a garbage battle cannon.
Yeah, it's a bad battle cannon.
Flawed?
Bottom up. Yeah, sure, it's with the indirect. But before we dive on to the last transport.
Yep. Dive on to Hytorian.
Ooh, that's kind of a cool name.
That is a cool name. 10 super chat. What nonsense can you do with the Stormlord firing deck?
That is a good question. So what I'm going to just make sure I know exactly how many models can shoot out of this. But basically firing deck. No, it's going to be a lot.
Stormlord. Yeah, that's the Gatling one, I believe.
Oh, yeah. 40 Astra Militarum models, and firing deck means they can all shoot.
No. One unit
embarked can be selected to shoot.
Oh, that's 1 unit embarked? But you can put heavy weapons teams in there, but then you fire 1 heavy weapon team.
Yeah, that's not. What does it hold? Just 40 Astra Militarum infantry.
I mean, you can put Kasrkin in there.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you can't use strats on the units inside, so they only have whatever buffs they got in the command phase before they got in.
Because they're not on the board.
Best thing I think I would do is tell a unit to first rank fire and then get inside. Like, I don't know what else to do.
Then you still shoot. Well, you can actually first rank fire, give them full rerolls to hit and wound, and get in the transport.
That's true, yeah.
It's cute. It's not, like, amazing.
Yeah, it's not what I, like, need.
I'm definitely not taking a 500-point super heavy for that, but...
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah, man, I wish you could shoot more than... Holding 40 dudes is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do with that.
All right, let's blaze through let's say these two right here.
Yeah.
Let's blaze through those two so we can talk in a little more.
Super heavies?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So the Valkyrie is a flying transport, and it's ballistic skill 3 now, which is good because it definitely doesn't have turret weapons and doesn't deserve them. But it's a transport that holds 12 dudes, and you can get them out after you move, which is really cool. But when you get them out, they have to be more than 9 inches away, but Scions have to be 6 inches away. And then you can randomly lose people for that.
Yep. They are expensive. They don't have good guns. Yep. I don't like them.
I don't like them either. They are too expensive for it to be a transport, unfortunately. Just because move and get guardsmen out 9 inches away from the enemy isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, guardsmen aren't deliverable like that. Scions can already deep strike.
How many points are these bad boys?
They're like 130, 140.
I remember them being a lot. Like, I remember them being a lot for no reason. I think they might be on the next page. Yeah, they're also on the next page, which moves them down a tier by itself.
Flyer, it's 140.
140, and then the heavy bolters and las cannons cost more, which I think you do end up wanting to take.
Yeah, it's too many.
It's too many. It doesn't do damage.
I think it's better.
It doesn't transport.
Some of the Wyvern stuff. It's kind of cute in Scions because it's a way to deliver Scions and still be eligible to order them.
I mean,
I want to... so niche.
I just want to... I want to be mad at it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's fine.
It's not good. Isn't there some trick you can do where you like lose a model and then get to do cool stuff?
Yeah, if you take a Kasrkins squad that has the custom +1 to hit if it's lost something.
Oh, yeah.
But like, who cares about +1 to hit when what you really care about is the wound roll and the hit roll. It is the wound roll.
True. And also, if you roll a bunch of, you're opening yourself up to rolling a bunch of ones and having your turn do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, who cares? So the Aegis Defense Line next. The Aegis Defense Line is a fortification. We're gonna
surprisingly hard to find pictures of it, by the way.
Yeah, because the new Aegis Defense Line they showed pictures of it out of the book for the first time yesterday. So, because there is a new model for it. But we're using the old one because everyone knows what an Aegis is. So
is that on Warcom?
Yeah, so it's on Warcom. So the Aegis is really good, but I'm going to try to look at it in the context of a guard army. Because there's weird arguments like, is an Aegis Defense Line a model? Can you just take it in any Imperium army without it doing anything wrong? Can you take it as a Brood Brother ally to Enginseer Cult and Tyranids? Like, I don't... These things are stupid. Let's just pretend it's a guard unit that you take in a guard army and forget the rest of it.
Oh, that is pretty large.
An Aegis Defense Line is very large, as the pictures have shown. It's indestructible, and it gives you light cover, heavy cover, -1 AP to incoming range attacks, and it's a barricade. And it's like 40 or 50 points. It's like
super cheap.
Super easy.
I think it's 50. It's on the next page again.
God.
We're on the next page for the rest of this.
All right. Aegis Defense Line is 40 points. It is very reasonably costed for being an indestructible move block. That's awesome. I think that it's keyword locked, but it's also Imperium. So what if you take it in a Custodes army and just trade Katas for an Aegis Defense Line? I would do that. I would just rather have an Aegis Defense Line than my secondaries. Easy.
You can also take multiple.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd rather take it than secondaries. I do think Custodes are like the army that might.
Yeah, Custodes are the army that this is like really an allied consideration for.
Grey Knights could as well, because they would just do like a different psychic secondary instead of purifying ritual.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know how this thing works. But anyways, in guard, it is a very cheap way to get a move block, and it is very good at making your infantry last longer than they deserve. It makes Bulgryn last an insanely long amount of time.
You do lose tides if you take it in Grey Knights, which is not...
Well, that's the question, is it a unit? Because it's a terrain feature. Exactly. Like, nobody knows. The fortification rules are just super poorly written across the board.
Yeah, if it's a terrain feature, then you can take in anything with no penalty, and then suddenly every Imperial army is going to take it, and it's ludicrous.
I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
So, but under the assumption that you just take it in a guard army, I think it's just good, but it's going to move block your tanks a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, tanks are the good part. Tanks are durable, too, which I just don't think this makes infantry durable.
Yeah, it doesn't make infantry squad. It makes infantry squads more durable. It does not make them flat durable.
When do you get the defensive benefits?
When you're receiving the benefits cover, which means that it's light cover and heavy cover.
Hold on. If you're receiving the benefits of cover, Can tanks receive the benefit? Because tanks would receive the benefits of dense if they were an area.
It's not dense. It's light and heavy.
But it doesn't. Don't you check to see if you're receiving it first, and then
Vehicles never receive the benefits cover.
Got it. Cool.
Yep. From area terrain, that is. They have to get it from something else, which dense cover has a word for, but this does not.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. No, tanks do not get it. Otherwise, yes, I'd make a tank line. That's even more unfortunate. As it is, I think it's just really good in guard, and it's super cheap, and that makes it all right. But like, also, I'm worried about it move blocking Russ.
I don't believe they're unaligned, Nethoni.
No, yeah, they're not unaligned. They are Imperium Astra Militarum as the faction.
If they were unaligned, anybody could take it, like literally in the whole game.
Then Tyranids would take it 100%. Because I'd just flesh hook over the top because it's not breachable. But
it's not breachable?
No, you have to go up and down. Yeah, which means it's an insane move block for people trying to get in your side of the table, and a really annoying move block for you trying to get out of it. As I said, it could move block your Russ, and that would be really annoying. If you just draw a line in front of your deployment zone, it takes like 4 inches off of Russ movement.
It does not particularly look like you can change the layout.
Yeah, no, it looks like it is what it is. It's a line. It's a defense line.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
But anyways.
It's pretty good.
I think it's a strong choice, or maybe even perfectly average. I don't think it's that busted at all in guard. It's just when you get to the weird spot of what armies can you take it in, stupid things happen, such as Custodes, who really would like to have light cover, heavy cover, armor, and contempt. Just like for 40 points.
Yeah, Seriade, the fact it's not breachable means that it's just so... It's going to be so obnoxious.
Yeah, it sounds really annoying. I don't want to play with it.
I don't want to play with it. I don't want to play against it. Yep. I don't want it to exist. It would just be miserable.
It would just be easier to not have that on the table.
But you know what's not miserable? Let's talk about some big super heavies that shoot kind of hard.
I do love me some super heavies. So there's 8 super heavies, I think.
Yes, there are. Well, I don't know. There's a lot. There, you can see them in the points.
I wanted to look at them. It's the pictures.
You want to get to know.
Yes, there are in fact 8 super heavies. They're all various levels of pretty I8 to I wouldn't. I don't think you really need a super heavy.
You don't need one. They don't function in 40k particularly well. They're very big. They're very bulky. They're very move blockable. They're going to struggle to get up the board and see your opponent a lot. With that being said, they're also very expensive. You don't need this thing as a transport, period. I'm sorry. You just don't.
Most of them don't transport.
Most of them don't, but I'm saying like the 3 or so that do, you don't need that.
I think they're all going to fall into different levels of perfectly average to flawed choice. Where the better ones, I think, are just perfectly fine. Like, yeah, I could totally see someone wanting to take a checks notes Bane Sword.
Yeah, Bane Sword is probably the best one.
Yeah, Bane Sword, it's D6 plus 6 shots at 14 minus 4 damage.
What's the other D6 plus 6 that was like pretty decent?
It's not Doom. It's the one that ignores cover at AP4, but it's strength 12. Come on, give it to me.
I think it's on the next page.
Storm Sword. Yeah, it's strength 12 at AP4, damage D3 plus 3, so it's more damage, less strength, but ignores cover.
Yeah, if you are wondering how to kit out your Leman Russ, not Leman Russ, your Baneblade, because you like Baneblades, Bane Sword and Storm Sword.
Bane Sword at only 390 base before you buy the mandatory las cannons is really nice.
Yeah, the Bane Sword is probably the best. The Storm Sword is very close.
Yeah. They're T9. They're 2-up armor. They're 30 wounds. I think one of them might be 32 or something.
Yeah, I think some of them.
Oh no, some of them are 28. Sorry.
28. Also, the biggest problem is that they look like they're not as expensive as they are, but you have to pay for the las cannons.
They all come with 2 and have the option to buy 2 more.
And each of that is
so it's
20 apiece.
Plus 40 to 80 to the base cost, it says.
Yeah, and then you could take a tank ace, which is again another like 40 or 50. Yeah.
A Bane Sword super for heavy. 390 sounds really good, but then you realize it's 430, and if you want those extra las cannons, it's 470, and you're like, oh god, the cheapest one is 470 if I buy the sponsons.
Yeah, which you probably want to do, because they come with, what, twin heavy flamers?
Twin heavy bolter or flamer and the las cannon.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. Having a million twin heavy, I think it's twin heavy bolters you want, right?
Yep.
But I think having a million twin heavy bolters is worth it. But yeah, it's 470 before you start taking tank aces, which you probably want to do. And then you're talking a unit that looked like it was 390 is actually over 500, and that's probably the cheapest. That's the cheapest one.
Yeah, and it's really easy to make them cost a lot.
All of the others are going clear over 500, no matter what. Probably going to hit more like 550. And so they're very expensive, and they struggle to play 40k well.
Yeah.
But Bane Sword, Storm Sword, if you're gonna take one,
Yep.
Otherwise, they kind of have trouble shooting as well. Like a Shadow Sword was the
premium one.
It was the premier like anti-tank super heavy. If you want to take
ludicrous. Anti-super heavy.
It's
flat 12.
It is a lot of damage. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's D3 plus 3. The hits on 3s because it's a turret weapon with no rerolls. It's strength 18 minus 5, 12 damage. That's scary.
It's scary, but it doesn't ignore invulns.
Doesn't ignore invulns. So what that means is, you get, let's say, 4 shots. Let's say you roll low bad, you get 2 hits, 2 wounds, they make a save. You probably kill a vehicle. This thing's like 600 points.
Yeah. There's been speculation that the sponsons are meant to be included or free. They currently are not. I would not be shocked if the first set was somehow added, because some of the guard things are like, stubber is free, additional stubber is 5 points. Like the Rogal Dorn doesn't pay for its first stubborn, but it pays for 2 and 3 because the additional heavy stubbers are 5 points.
Yeah, but I think that's like the only one that does that.
Correct.
I think every other unit in the game, and most of the units in this codex work the way where if it is included on the data sheet, you still have to pay for the points.
Yeah, so assume that's the default unless something says otherwise.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it came out that you didn't have to pay for the first 2.
Yeah.
It is a lot of shots, but you have to pay for it.
Yep. So, yeah, just assume that you have to pay for it, and then they get kind of expensive. They're really fun. I think, again, they're perfectly average to flawed choice. The biggest problem for me is that they're so hard to move.
Just going to put them in there.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, honestly, bottom just because they're in either one.
Just to make it easy. Yeah, I'm all right with that, I think.
Which kind of puts them between the two, if you look at it.
It literally is, yeah. It's just right in the middle by itself.
Yep.
I think that's everything in the book.
I think that kind of wraps us up for today. This has been a lot of units. This is probably our longest tier list we've ever done.
This is too many units.
It really is. I debated splitting this up into characters and units, but I figured all of our other ones are all together, so let's just suck it up and do it.
Absolutely. So hope you enjoyed this one, everyone. Thank you so much for all the super chats and support that we get during the videos. We really appreciate it. If you want to see more of our content, you can always find it on this very same YouTube channel. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It's always a good thing to do, and we really appreciate us. Leave some comments below. Tell us what you agreed or disagreed with. That it really helps us out with the algorithm. And then make sure you check out both our website and the link below. You can find our War Room content both on our website and on YouTube. You can find that on theartofwar40k.com. But the War Room is where some high-level coaches like myself, Jack, Bradchester, Nick, Richard, so many more are there to teach you everything you need to know about competitive 40k and getting better at the game we love.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We appreciate this. We had a good time. If you are in the War Room, there is a stream game happening in 15 minutes.
Yes.
Between
Richard and Nick, and I believe it is Grey Knights and Demons.
Ooh, that one is pretty tasty. So,
There we go.
all right. Adios. Bye-bye.